No, I'm looking. And, surprisingly enough, I'm starting this. I'm sending the stream, and you're not chopping up. You're not starting to chop up like you were before.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, it was going on a the low level encoder as opposed to mine. Check and see that we're online on YouTube. It took us on pretty quick and says we are.
Yeah, yeah, we're good now.
Are we moving fine?
Yeah, yeah, everything
Yeah,
looks good.
that's what it was. It was
Thank
the wrong
fucking God.
encoder. All right, cool. So what time is it?
Sweet. 9/11.
Oh, so cool. Hey, folks, welcome to the Generational Gap. This is our stream tonight. Hey, it's a little bit crazy, it's a little bit hectic, but fuck it. Here we are.
Oh my God, yeah, what a pain in the ass, man.
Yeah, let's hear it for encoders. Rock on, encoders. Thank you for shopping at Kmart. John, get those fucking people out here.
Yeah, yeah.
Tell them to stop watching those shows that don't matter and come check us out. Cause
They're calling you boomers on the Discord.
yeah, go figure. Tell them that I got my boomer head out of my ass now and I got it figured it out.
Yeah, yeah. I'm
Figured
right
it
now.
out. Hey, it's sometimes
And live for real this time.
for realios.
No, yeah, no fakies. There we go. No fakies. All right. Yeah, now we can like do stuff. Hey, we got white and silly blue in the chat.
Yeah,
Pretty sweet.
I'm trying to find me some chat stuff right now so I can see what the hell's going on. I mean, if I'm going to be insulted, I at least want to see the insults. There they
Right, you
are.
gotta at
They're
least.
starting to come in. They're so annoying. And I see
Yeah.
why. Yeah, they're starting to come in up on the whatchamahookie.
Oh man, yeah, that
Hey,
was
hey, John, how are
pain
you
in the
doing
cock.
tonight? How you doing tonight?
Better now. Better now that we
Starting to
can
come in
actually
up on the
stream.
whatchamahookie. You know,
Oh man.
yeah, it's kind of funny. It's the funniest part is like I'm like hoping that you can get the goddamn stream going and well,
And then you figured it out.
and
Yep,
but
Jake says
I'm the
boomer
boomer.
stream.
I'm the boomer, right?
Well, see, I'm 30 now, so I'm officially a boomer as well. So
Is that what?
that's why I can't use technology anymore.
So
Because I totally could beforehand,
it's not about
obviously.
it's not about the generation now. It's just the age. When you hit a certain age, you
Right.
become a boomer.
Once you're 30, you're a fucking boomer.
Hey, I see Jake from Freedom Scoop roaming around in the chat. What the hell is going on? I
Yeah,
feel
man, what's
excited.
up?
Okay, so John, fucking crazy shit going on all over the place, and we're still alive. We're still coming at you. Have you coughed at all? Any respiratory issues, John? Any
Well,
symptom?
no, not because of sickness. No,
No symptoms at this point. Is that correct?
no,
You're not feeling the
correct.
corona love,
That's right.
even as it
No
drives us
symptoms.
into a corona session.
Ah,
It is. It's driving us into a corona session. I'm just saying.
yeah, no.
They're saying 3 out of 4 people are being impacted in America by this. 3 out of 4 people.
Well, that doesn't mean that 3 out of 4 people have it.
No, 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 no.
Yeah, midget.
Being impacted by everything. Jesus H. Is Jesus in the house? Is Jesus in the house?
Oh shit,
Uh,
Jesus, he turned up. Oh man,
right. I knew he was
what
coming
an
back
honor!
tonight. He says
What
he's.
an honor!
Wait, Jake, are you still running Freedom Scoop? I'm turning the keys over to Jay Edgar since the campaigns have taken off. Wait,
Yeah, no, we knew about that.
who the fuck put Ed in charge? What the hell's going on around
Jake
here?
did. Yeah. Hey Ed. He said, "Hey guys."
That's gonna
Hey Ed.
fuck our freedom up if you catch my drift. I mean, the first thing he's gonna
Yeah.
do is get rid of Freedom Scoop because you got to get rid of the overseers, the Overwatch, right?
Well,
In that
oh,
Ed's
that's
thing,
true. Ed is the government,
right?
so he needs to,
Get
yeah,
rid of
abolish
himself,
himself.
right?
That's right.
See, how does that work, Ed? How does that work when you're the one in charge? Uh, oh, Ed's
It's
on
true.
quarantine too. Have they? So, is everybody in a lockdown city? Here we have a curfew till 11.
At
At 11.
11, from 11 to 5 a.m., which
11
is
p.m.
like
to.
I don't know. I feel like a kid now. Like, oh, you better be home by 11. Like, oh my god.
Um, It's a strong reaction. They've shut California down. They just put the whole fucking state on lockdown. They're just
Well,
like,
to be
fuck it.
fair, we probably should have done that a long time ago.
Right. But well, I mean, but this is in regard to a virus. So
Yeah. You mean the virus that is California? Yeah.
um,
It infects everywhere it touches.
so Ed, you're on lockdown. I'm assuming Wyatt, you're out of school. There's no school right now for Wyatt.
He's
Um,
probably doing it online, I imagine.
I don't know how
A lot of places are doing that.
I don't know how Jake's functioning. I mean, how do you do campaign stuff when you can't, when you're not supposed to be around people? You're not on lockdown, Ed? Like you can go, you're going to work and everything. There's no issues there. Is everybody pretty much the same? Everything business as usual? Is that what
For
I'm?
me, it is. In fact, for me, it's actually been like I've been working more
Well, right, because you got to get a
since.
lot of that meat out.
Yeah, but like, oh, it's so fucking obnoxious, man. Like today, this morning, right? Fridays, I'm usually working from 1 a.m. to about 5, maybe 6 if it takes us a while. I didn't get home till after 8 o'clock this morning. I worked a full, like, day, a 7-hour day.
But you're getting that OT, right? So.
Oh, well, yeah, yeah. No, I'm only mad until I get my check, and then I'm like, all right, that's that's not so
Right,
bad.
right.
But during the week, though, during the time, I'm like, fuck this, fuck everything, fuck me, fuck you, fuck them,
Yeah,
fuck us.
in that last hour, you're just like, I can't stand this fucking place. I'm gonna quit. Oh, here's your paycheck. Thanks. I'm out of here.
Like,
I'll
all
be back.
right, I guess I'll stick around a little bit longer.
Right, I'll be back. See you tomorrow. See you
Yeah.
tomorrow.
Fucking hell.
So let's see. Excuse me. Wyatt says he's out of school till April 13th and back to regular classes. Ed says restaurants can no longer offer dine-in, but there are rumors of a full lockdown. National Guard is mobilized in Illinois. Jake says lots of phone calls for campaigns and recruiting volunteers to write letters to the newspaper. Also, tons of data being studied. So, yeah. So no, plenty of social distancing going on then. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's been some interesting things going on. Man, I don't know. So I saw a thing. I was reading an article, and it basically broke it down by generations, right? So, like it was saying that the reactions are different based on generations. Like the older generations, after older than Gen X, are kind of like, we've been through this, we've been through that, this kind of thing. So they're just kind of like, whatever, bring it. It is what it
Yeah.
is, right? Gen X, my generation, they said we're taking it like a lot more seriously.
I
Simply
can
be,
see that you are at least.
it's simply because simply because the era that we grew up in and the things that we take seriously, and we're at that point where we're establishing lives, we've got families, things like this, and then millennials are just kind of like anxious about it and don't know what to do, just kind of sitting in a limbo.
My, my avocado toast. Like, that's
Right?
pretty much it.
And then Gen Z
Yeah.
is like, fuck you guys. Fuck it. We're just going to keep doing what we're doing. We face
Well, see, that's what I
adversity.
feel like. Yeah, I'm more in the Gen Z camp, even though I'm a millennial, obviously. But I'm definitely in that camp of like, whatever. Get this the fuck out of here.
But people are having weird reactions. So, like, for instance, J Lo, she posts a video at her house of her son bringing some drinks out on a hoverboard to her and her husband while they're on solid, lockdown at their house. They're like staying in, doing the right things, right? And she posts this video. And the first thing that people are going off on mainly was, okay, your house looks like the house from Parasite. Odd thing, but this is what a bunch of people were going. But then one woman decided she was going to lambast J Lo, and she's like, "Oh, sure, this is what you're doing, while hundreds of nurses and doctors are out there working tirelessly and making 1/1000th of the money that you flaunt." And I'm like, "Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
You're a
Like,
fucking nurse." Get with it. This is when it's your time to shine, baby. This is when your
right.
job comes up, right? You get tapped. Fucking J
This is
Lo,
when you get the recognition,
right?
like, for what you're doing. Yeah.
If J Lo was a nurse, guess what? She'd be doing that, but she's not. She's a fucking singer. She's a fucking actress. Yeah, guess what? They
And
get paid more than you, you
did you
dumbass.
know that she actually has her ass insured?
Yeah, I can imagine.
She has insurance on her ass. I'm pretty sure that's J-Lo.
And then the bitch even had the nerve to say, "I love your stuff, but," and I'm like, "No, well,
Oh yeah,
then don't
that's the
bitch."
thing about that statement. Is it's
Right.
always anything that comes after "but" is just complete bullshit.
Right. Well, the sad part is like, okay, if you love her stuff, then that means you've probably put money in her pocket. So you're responsible for all that shit she's got just as much as anybody else who made her popular and
Yeah,
famous. She's just doing her
exactly.
fucking job. Sorry, she gets paid more than you. Sorry. Next time, go for singing, not nursing. Check yourself. you
Yeah.
know, it's just fucking stupid the way people are reacting. Um, oh, Ron Helton shows up.
Hey, what up, bro?
Plenty of supplies today. Local store has put limits to help stop the panic buying, which is smart. I mean, every store needs to do that. I saw one store. Here's what they were doing. You could buy one item at regular price. If you wanted a second item, it rang up at like 500% cost.
Fuck off.
And they're like, okay, yeah, no, for stuff that needed to be limited, like toilet paper. Okay, you can buy this
Oh,
one big
okay.
pack,
Yeah, yeah.
but if you bring a second pack up here, we're going to charge you a lot more money for
God
that.
damn.
Trying to prevent people from doing this hoarding and
Yeah.
reselling and stupid shit like that. I thought that was very interesting, and not at all a horrible thing. Uh,
What was
uh,
really dumb, and I feel bad for this guy, even though I know a lot of people don't. But there was a guy who spent. It was something like it was rounding up. It was like $18,000 worth of hand sanitizer.
yes, yes, yes.
Where he spent his entire life savings on this, and then he was reselling it, so he was being greedy,
On
right?
Amazon, right?
I think so,
Yeah.
or eBay or something like that. He was selling, at a huge markup, and like he got so much shit for it. And he eventually just had to start giving it out, which is I don't know. I think that's just absolutely ridiculous because
It's
he took a risk, right? He took a massive risk
sure,
that
but
I think this is something that I can sell. I can make a bunch of money.
yeah, that's
Now I get
karma
it.
though.
I get it. He's being greedy, right?
Right.
I get it. But at the same time, that's like if you spent a bunch of money to open up a legitimate business, like if you open a taco stand or something, and then you spent your entire life savings on it, and you start selling tacos, and then people come up to you and start bitching at you because you're charging a little bit more than the guy next door, and then you end up having to give them away for free. You just
Okay.
start giving away your tacos that you spend all this money
Okay.
on for free.
Okay. So I don't
Yeah,
agree with the
you
analogy
can
for the
totally
following
say that.
I don't agree with that analogy for the following reasons. That would only hold true if there was a shortage of tacos and he was the only one that really had access to tacos and he was jacking the price up really high. Selling it for a little bit more is one thing. This guy was selling sanitizer for upwards to $70+ a bottle.
Okay. But I mean, he was
And
also telling other people, "Hey, you should do this," and
sure.
other people didn't listen, so they missed out, and
But
they
are you
they went
okay?
after him.
But we discussed this before. Are you okay with retailers doing that here in Florida after a hurricane with water?
Yeah, I've said that before.
You're okay with
That's
them
supply and
gouging,
demand.
but what about price gouging? Taking
That's
advantage of a desperate situation. Is that
I mean,
you
okay,
think that's
so
okay?
I don't want them to do it. However, it's certainly within their rights to do it. It's their product. They can sell it for whatever price they want. Now, if there was somebody who also bought a shitload of hand sanitizer and wanted to sell it the less than that guy, now you have competition. But since no one else did it, at least in Tennessee, then
Okay. So
he's the monopoly.
I'm gonna show you I'm gonna point out a different example, and I know how you feel about patents, so I kind of know where you're gonna stand on this. But there's some guys being sued right now because they 3D printed a very much needed respirator valve on a 3D printer, cost them about $1. The company that actually holds the patent on them is suing them for millions of dollars for doing this because they have a patent and they sell this same valve for $10,000. And I guarantee you they're not so much suing over the patent as they are for the exposure of just how price gougy they are.
Sure.
I mean, and that's horrific to think about that that kind of price gouging is legal in
Well,
our medical
so
system.
so yeah, so again with the medical stuff, that comes a lot of that comes down to the cost for R&D. So yes, of course, once someone creates a product, they've done the research, they figured out how to make this thing, and they spent a shitload of money doing it, and then they start producing it, they're going to sell it for more than someone who takes something that has already existed, so they already know how to make it
Mm-hmm.
properly, and then they start making because they don't have to do all the R&D. So I understand from that perspective why that's an issue and why they would charge more than somebody who was just producing something that already existed. And that's
Still,
kind of the point of patents in the first place.
yeah, still sounds like
But
selling a $7,000 ladder to the government.
yeah. But that's the thing, though, is anyone can make letters. So they were bidding for the government. And we were talking about it's a callback from what our third or fourth episode of the
Right,
show back when we were audio only. Yeah, we were talking about to Gavin, your stepson.
right.
Yeah, because he was in the army, I believe, right? And yeah, he was talking about like the whatever ladders they were getting, like 7 grand, each. But that's because the government signed a contract at that price because I guess that was the lowest bid. So it's not like other people aren't making ladders. You know what I mean?
Well,
They
no,
didn't
I
have a
get it.
patent on a ladder.
No, I understand that. It's just
Yeah.
just this mindset. So it's the idea that somebody will go into a store and buy all 100 cases of hand sanitizer that they have in the store, while there's a bunch of people in the store that are wanting to buy hand sanitizer. And he
Yeah.
basically says, no, I'm going to buy all this up and resell it at 12 times the
Okay.
normal amount. If you want some, go on the
Right.
website and get it, but this store doesn't have any more because I'm taking it all. That's shitty
Right.
to me. That's just shitty business.
I mean, okay, so ethically, there might be some ethical questions going on.
Sure.
However, it's not like that was it for hand sanitizer, right? The store's going to get another delivery.
Hope
It's not like there
right.
are actually no more sanitizer anywhere, right? You could also go to a different store,
No, it's
the next
sure.
town over, and get more
Except
hand sanitizer.
every store you go into, take the toilet paper. Every store you're
Yeah,
going into, I mean, they may be getting some toilet paper in, and I've got a direct line, of course, to the big
yeah,
retailer. They're having trouble. It's not coming in as fast as they can sell it at all. And
yeah. Of
they're
course,
constantly out of these things because when they do get some in, it's gone within minute. The first little bit of opening the store.
right.
And if people are
But there's
coming in,
a
it's affecting the supply and demand
it's
in a
right.
weird way, in an ethical way.
The demand skyrocketed and the supply stayed the same. That's the issue that happened with supply and demand.
Okay. But yeah,
Right.
if you want to
So
get into the ethics of it, yeah, I don't think it's ethically wrong. Not from a community standpoint, not from a, you know, that's the part that it bothers me the most is, I mean, as a libertarian, you talk about these ideas of, if we had, less government, we would have a more charitable society and we would have more community oriented thinking. And, this is the kind of thing that proves that it's not necessarily the same mindset. Ed says, "Wow, they're talking all about this
yeah,
sanitizer." But Ed says the hoarders are putting a strain on the supply chain. They are. The state of Tennessee stole his, and the state of Tennessee stole his sanitizer. Nobody stuck a gun to their head to buy. You can make your own, right? You can make your own. But the boy, howdy,
yeah,
man, there's so much misinformation on what you can do for sanitization out there. Whew, you got to be careful what you're coming into when you're looking at that. Wyatt says he had a lady buy all the aloe vera we had in the store today. Helton says there's no such thing as price gouging. That is ludicrous. Necessity is the mother of all invention. A little price gouging is
hmm
just the impetus to spur better and cheaper products. Uh, I I don't know that spurs the impetus, making cheaper products because I mean, it's not like sanitizer is, high cost item normally.
I got some for free from my business. I would show it, but it's got like my business's logo and stuff on it, so I'm not going to. But yeah, we actually got them passed around the other day. I think it was on. I think it was actually yesterday. Thursday. Yeah, it was just yesterday.
Now,
So
see,
I mean, it's not like it's not going around, right? It's not like there's none to be had.
right.
You
Um,
know.
so Helton says if somebody buys all of the sanitizer, then it's the fault of the store for not looking out for the general good of all their customers. And I can agree with that, but
Well,
at the
so
same time,
hang on, because that's not
saying,
necessarily true. Hang
hold on,
on, because
I that's exactly what I was going to say. Go ahead.
yeah, that's not necessarily true. Because, and I'll give you an example from my work. Right, we started going through a lot more product because of this. In the last 2 weeks, we've gone through. We're up. I think it's 25% more product than we usually go through, and so what happened was the corporate warehouses are actually like limiting what we can receive from them on our truck days when we get our deliveries. We're actually being limited on quite a few of the products, other than like the core stuff.
Right.
Like anything that's non-essential is either not being sent or being sent by averages, as
Oh,
opposed to what we're actually asking for. And we're actually not going to be getting a Wednesday truck. We usually get Wednesday and Friday. We're actually not going to be doing a Wednesday one this next
oh,
week.
it's just the supply is your demand is too high. They're having to
Right. So the
ration out
supply is not
supply.
keeping up. Right. The
Right.
supply is not keeping up with the demand at the moment.
Well, they may have the supply. Well, but keep in mind, you're a distributor, and as far as the supply,
Yeah.
they may have the supply to keep up with it, but the demand has changed and is spiking and changing in different
Right.
places. So the immediate thing to do is to go to rationing. But with Helton, what I was going to say about the store not looking out for the general good. Well, the argument is going to be made from the other side. I'm a customer. I should be allowed to buy as much of this as I want to, right?
Yeah, but I mean, it's also up to the store. If they want to have a policy like that, I see no issue with that.
Right.
They
I
can
mean,
absolutely have a policy like that.
because technically it's not normally a policy. This is a policy that some stores are going to enact simply
No, I
for
mean,
the short term, of course.
right. But even if that was their policy full time, I have no problem with that. If that's what they want to do, it's not good for business, but during normal circumstances,
Right.
that wouldn't be good for business. But it's certainly within their rights to do so.
Yeah, I mean, you've got from a distribution standpoint, there like I said, there could be normally plenty of supply, but you've got so many peaks in demand now shooting up everywhere, even if, particularly specifically in places that don't normally have a high demand at all, are probably now showing high demand for products. So then it does start to impact supply because it's like, okay, how fast can we kill these animals and get more meat in, right? Especially with
Yeah,
shipping plants starting to shut down. So you've got to consider that too. Now you're going to have supply chain impacted on the on that side of it as more and more people are being told to stay home from work. That's the real
yeah.
issue. So then you start to question, okay, then again the ethics of the hoarding and reselling come into play again. Okay, look, you know,
Well, I
this
mean, he
it's
took a huge risk, right? Because he bought it before the hand sanitizer was,
oh,
becoming, an issue. Before the supply, he's like, "This is going to be an issue. I'm
hold on.
going to take advantage of it, try and make some money," and then they ended up just stealing it from him,
I would argue that
right?
he didn't take so much of a risk as he took a gamble. He's
That's
he
he spent his entire
there's
life
there
savings,
but
18 grand.
sure, by choice he gambled that money
Yeah,
on just like he would in Vegas. The risk,
yeah.
mm, I don't know that he felt like he was risking anything. I don't think he felt
No, I mean
he
he
was
did
just
because it
gambling on
was.
making a bunch of money. You
No,
know,
he took the risk of it becoming a problem. He foresaw that it was become a problem, and did took action on it to
no,
try
what
and
I'm
make some
saying,
money.
he didn't
What?
feel he was putting himself at risk by investing that
Well,
money.
no, he did because if
He
it
felt it was a
wasn't,
sure shot.
but if it wasn't an issue, he'd be fucked. He'd have 18 grand worth of hand sanitizer and no life
Well,
savings.
if it wasn't an issue, he wouldn't have bought the hand sanitizer in the first place.
Well, no, he bought it before the supply was low. He
Ah,
bought
I gotcha,
low to sell high.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, it came back to
So it's
bite
not
him.
like it.
It bit him in the
Well,
ass.
yeah,
That's
but whose fault is that? It wasn't his own.
sure it's
It was
his
stolen
own.
from him.
It's his.
No, it was stolen from him.
Well, now them coming and taking it from him,
Yeah.
confiscating it, that I have a problem with. Somebody telling him you can't sell it for that price, I don't have a problem with that. I mean, he was
Oh,
getting.
see, I absolutely have a problem with that. He can sell it for whatever price he wants.
Yeah,
It's
but
his hand sanitizer. He purchased it.
sure,
It's his.
sure, but Amazon is a provider of that source for him to sell. Can say, you know what,
Okay.
they can.
Amazon can say, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They can tell him you can't sell that on our site anymore and bump him. So go make your own fucking website and sell it. Good luck marketing it.
Or eBay.
Or
eBay doesn't give a fuck what you
as
do.
far as you know. I mean, have you
I
looked
mean,
into what eBay's doing?
No, I haven't.
Yeah.
But I know you can sell some really weird shit on there.
From the standpoint of social cred, the smart thing is to get on board with shutting down anything that's deemed as quote unquote price gouging, because that is going to enhance your social presence in the
Yeah.
to the heartthrob community out there. Helton says government. Sully says he drives trucks, and with so much lockdown, there's fewer and fewer places to eat, piss, and beat off in private. Is kind of choking supply lines as far as logistics go. Helton says government incompetence has created this panic, them and the worthless media. Yes, I will say that a lot of panic was created from this. I'm not going to say that these strong methods of trying to curtail the spread are completely out of line, because it has shown to be beneficial in places where they've gone to full lockdowns. So I'm not going to say, that's horrible, but yeah, the panic got overblown. Ed says, I just saw 2 squads where I've never seen a police presence before, and 2 city squads on a service road that's never patrolled. They're watching you because they know you're dealing cards.
And they know you're dealing hand sanitizer.
Right? They saw you walk in with that 800 pack of toilet paper. They know what time.
Right.
They know what's up, sir. They know what's up. Helton says if your corporate is limiting, then that is because the supply chain is being strained. Yep.
Right. Yeah, they're trying to get product to everyone. It's not just us, right? Not even in Florida is it just us, right? There's tons of them just in Florida alone, let alone the rest of the country and a little bit in Canada. So there's a lot of people, a lot of places they need to get product around to.
So
here, I understand why they're doing it, right? But it's not forcing us to limit it. They're just saying we're not going to send that to you, or we're not going to send as much as you want.
Well, we can't. They're probably saying we can't. I mean, in their own way, they're saying we can't. We just don't have it to send to you. We've got to dole it out to everybody till we get more in. And that's a smart thing to do. As long as if they keep you guys rationed, they can get the supply in and continue with rations, hopefully. Helton says, he just watched a video of a British nurse who was in tears. She finished a 48-hour shift, stopped to buy food on the way home, and the shelves were stripped bare. He says, no, the store should help to quell the panic the government and the media has caused, and they should. I fully agree.
They shouldn't be compelled to, but they should. Right. There's a difference, right?
Well, but John, this is, we're in a situation. And this is why,
I've said this many times, and I'm sticking to my principles. I prefer liberty over safety.
But your government's job is to protect you from what? Foreign invaders? Are they there to protect? Are they?
I get what you're saying, because if I say yes, well, it's a Chinese virus.
No. This counts as a foreign invader. This is something that was brought into this country. It's an invasive disease. It is a foreign invader. They've declared it as a war against this virus. So they are taking protective actions like they would if it was a normal invasion by another country. Except with less gunfire, right? Hopefully.
Hopefully. But no, I'm still sticking to the principle of liberty over safety.
Right. I mean, so if you were a leader in position and you had to try and ensure the public health, and that the main thing to do in a situation like this is minimize the spread to buy yourself time to find a vaccine. What do you do as a libertarian leader then to prevent people from continuing to spread this disease?
Right. So I would still leave it up to the states, which is kind of what's been done. I don't like that our governor shut down like bars and restaurants and
You
things like that. I get it, and I'm not mad, but I don't like it.
No, nobody has to like it. I get that.
Yeah.
But I mean,
But
you
that's
do
what I
you
would do. I would say this is on you, states,
okay?
because we do have a 10th Amendment still, regardless of how much they like to ignore it. We do still have a 10th Amendment.
Okay.
So I would say, to the governors, like it is up to you to do in your state what you think is necessary.
Okay. So then
And
let me ask.
I would also limit, yeah, outside travel in and out of the country.
Well, hold on. Let me ask you this though. What do you do about interstate travel? Because we have planes going back and forth between states, and if state
Yeah.
A locks most of their state down with curfews and things like we have, but not the airport, and then state B is like, fuck it, we're not doing any lockdowns, carry on business as usual. Now you've got two states that are not working well together, and you create
Yeah.
a situation of more transmission going on. So
So then,
again,
yeah,
where
what
does the
you do
federal government
as
step in?
right, as president, you don't need to sign an executive order. You don't need to try and pass a law that requires the state to do it. What you do is you call that governor out, like on in the media, on television, on Twitter, and the internet, whatever. And saying like, look, you're not doing the things that you need to do in order to, uh, quell this spread, the panic, even. And you just call them out and say, hey, constituents of this guy or woman, you need to get at your governor and just give him a piece of your mind, basically.
Okay, and is that supposed to accomplish something? Because if you're not
It
telling
absolutely
it,
would.
no, it wouldn't. Because like take
Absolutely
Florida, I
would.
disagree. Take Florida for instance. Florida, we've got these things
Uh-huh.
going into effect, and most people don't give a flying fuck. They've been down in Miami. All the spring breakers are like, fuck it, we're not going
Spring
anywhere. It's still
breakers are
spring
not
break.
usually from Florida.
Florida is full of tourists
Right.
constantly.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, we have a tourist economy here,
Sure,
so it will
throughout.
affect us. Absolutely.
But if you've got, but even like I've been out, I go to the store as needed, and traffic hasn't changed. There's no, I mean,
Right.
everybody's still out and about, running around, doing things, and going and being, ignoring social distancing. And part of that may be the area that I live in because I'm more in a primarily Hispanic part of section of town.
Well,
But
you're also in a more densely populated
sure, but
part
there's
of town.
but there's more traffic out there than I see on Sundays, right? Still continuously, and people going to work, people doing things. I mean,
Yeah, people have to work.
but if a state, what if they don't give it? What are you going to do? You're gonna get rid of your governor if in a moment's notice to get somebody else in there that's going to lock your state down? Especially if you've got a state full of libertarians who are going, I would rather have my liberty than government interference. You know,
Well, then you make it clear that it's okay. It's your responsibility. If you get sick, that's on you. And if you
but
get someone else
again,
sick,
but
that's on you.
but
If you
again,
get somebody else sick,
it's the federal
especially.
government's job to take the public health into consideration for the entire country. Again, if you're traveling
Yeah.
between states and you're carrying that shit, you're spreading it. The government's got to do something. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, they're put in a position to have to do something, and I don't know that there's a lot of wrong plays here. Trying to sneak bullshit legislation in the middle of a pandemic
Yeah.
is fucked, right? I get that.
Absolutely.
But trying to do something to bail out, you know, to bail out and help people, or like shit. McDonald's came out and was like, we don't mind paying our employees, but our franchisees, it's not a good idea for them. So you need to rethink this and revamp what you're doing. And part of what they're doing in this new bill that's supposed to include checks is they're revamping some of the stuff in the first bill that they put into place. So it's interesting stuff that's going on. They're having to make decisions, and no, they're not all going to be the right decisions. But so Ed
And
says, see,
I want to acknowledge real quick what Ron Hilton just said. He said he's resisting the urge to go get some beer. I should just put on a pot of beans and go to sleep for a while. funny thing is, Tuesday is when we heard that all the bars and restaurants were stopping serving alcohol at 5 p.m. And I took that to mean that like the liquor stores weren't selling liquor either.
Oh, no,
So
no, no.
what
You're good
me and a
there.
friend did, yeah, they were good, but I didn't find that out until I went. So a friend and I went to our local liquor store right across the street, and we panic bought between the two of us about $200 worth of liquor.
So like 3 bottles?
Uh,
No, I'm just kidding. I know
I
some.
bought 3 bottles,
Yeah. Um,
and I think he bought like 3 bottles and 6 pack of Angry Orchard.
you know
It
that.
wasn't all just for us. Like because we were planning on celebrating St. Patrick's Day, which we did to great effect.
So just in case, unless it's not available in your area, I can think of two. I know Postmates, DoorDash. I think DoorDash
Uber
will do it
Eats,
too.
Uber
Uh,
Eats will do it.
will they? Do they have places that will provide that they can buy alcohol and get it to you
Yeah.
from? So a lot of
Yep.
your delivery services will deliver alcohol, which is amazing to
Yeah.
me because you know what? They won't deliver cigarettes. They don't have cigarettes available.
Yeah, that is interesting, isn't it?
It's like what the
Because you have to
fuck?
show, you have to be the same age for both. Because you have to be
Right.
21 now for cigarettes.
Right.
Isn't that fucking ridiculous, too? But that's a whole different
Yeah,
discussion.
notice Helton says they're now reporting 19,000 cases in the U.S. and 249 deaths if they're testing properly. Okay, so I think I was talking about this to John off mic, and
Yeah, so
I've
give
been
your thought on this real quick, because I'm going to go take a
yeah.
piss.
I've been watching the numbers as they've been flowing in, the day-to-day counts here in the United States. And we went from like 2 days in a row, we were at 500 cases each day had been discovered, new cases, and then went for 2 days. One day was 1,000 new cases and then 1,700. As of from yesterday, the count says that our cases jumped by almost 6,000 cases yesterday. And I believe, Ron, what's happening is that there's actually tests are getting into the hands of different states, different organizations to where they're able to actually start doing more mass testing. And that's why we're seeing this sudden rise in cases because we're now able to get the tests and find these people that are toting this shit around. I know that here in O Town they have established a mobile testing center that they're going to start tooling around and they're going to start taking it to places because you need to get everybody tested. You don't just need to test people that have symptoms. And so hopefully that's what it is. Uh, Wyatt, that's been Shapiro's big point that we need more testing, and that's true. The testing needs to be done. It was interesting. Yeah, the state health departments must be up and running now. We'll see a huge spike by next week in the thousands. Yes, we're going to see lots and lots of new people. It was interesting. I saw an article that said that the CEO of Alibaba. You're familiar with the site Alibaba, right?
Yeah.
The purchase site, the buy everything site.
But
So
in bulk, usually, isn't
yeah,
it?
the
Yeah.
CEO,
We actually have a funny story about that, but you can keep going.
the CEO who is in China, he's Chinese. He donated apparently 500,000 test kits and 1 million respirator masks to the U.S. And supposedly he's supposed to be sending those over. Those are being shipped to us. Those are being sent to us as a gift. He's like, I want our American friends to be safe. So he said he's bought, he's purchased these and he's making them available to the United States. 500,000 testing kits is more than, or 500 million, excuse me, is how many he said. 500 million testing kits is more than enough to cover the population of the United States with extra. So hopefully those are going to start hitting the streets unless there's some bullshit with getting them past customs, through the ports. I don't know.
Yeah.
But and I'm like, damn, that's awesome. This guy's,
Right.
he's in China. Trump is just shitting on China this whole time, right? But this guy is
Well,
like,
he's shitting on the Chinese government,
well,
but yes.
granted,
Yeah.
but he just, he doesn't disseminate that down in his shit that he says. He just throws out Chinese rhetoric, right? The China flu,
When
the
he
China
says
virus.
China, that means the Chinese government. Yeah.
What he means and what he breaks it down for the American public who just reads words is two different things, right? I mean, right?
No. What
They
he
call him
says,
racist for saying that, and not because
what he
but if he said,
says, and what the media spins it to mean are two different things. Yes, I'll give
I
you that.
understand that, but John, you know just as well as I do that there's a million SJWs out there that just read the tweet and they
Well,
see,
fuck them. They're inconsequential anyway.
yeah, they're the
Fuck
vocal
them.
minority, so fuck them, right? They're a vocal minority. Their voices are out there
It has nothing
messing
to
in
do
the
with the
mix.
minority. It just has to do with whether or not what they say matters, and it doesn't.
It matters to some
Like Alyssa
people.
Milano, yeah, the same people. They're talking to the same people all the time. They're not. There's no one new is becoming an SJW really, unless they were raised that way. That's the only way that you're gonna find new ones.
You put some
But
pretty big fucking generalizations out there
yeah, I am.
for not knowing
Uh,
the facts.
when I say no one, what I mean is like very very few people, right? I don't mean like absolutely no one, zero across the board. But again, we're going into whether or not we have to use exactly precise language, or if I can just generalize and you know what I mean.
Right.
You know, there's a difference.
I mean,
So
I just go by what I read on his Twitter feed when he says these things. And this is the kind of thing that's being put out there. It's not newspapers that
right.
are saying
Well, I'll
it.
say the
This is
same thing about
just
Alyssa Milano, right?
right. Oh yeah.
She's huge on Twitter, and she's also a huge SJW. And you know, she's like, "Oh, stop calling it the Wuhan virus or the Kung flu, or stop calling it the China virus or whatever. That's racist, and it doesn't make it okay.
Right.
You know, just because it came from there doesn't make it okay to be racist."
Right.
But nobody cares. It's
Right.
not about like no one's like, "Oh, we're fighting against racism." It's just like, okay, let's take care of the actual problem, and then we'll deal with whether or not it's racist. That's
Right. But
most rational people, at least.
But
That's
look
their
at
kind of
look,
stance on it.
but look at the trickle up effect it has. So those voices come out, and then the media, the crazy media jumps on it and spins it and does their thing, and then it starts filtering into Washington because the media is covering it, and then then they start saying things back and forth in Washington. So it filters up into politics in the rhetoric, and so the rhetoric is the bullshit, right? I get that he's talking about the Chinese government, although I'm kind of questioning whose government was involved in getting that virus over to China in the first place. I mean, maybe not. I don't know. I didn't. There's some speculation it came from fucking Harvard, right? Because that guy's
There's
going
all
right,
kinds of fucking
right,
speculation. I don't pay. That's why I don't pay attention to
right,
any of that shit. Because everyone's saying something different,
right.
and you just don't know what's true. So screw where it originated. Screw all that shit. Screw whose
You
fault it is. Just
you
fucking deal with the issue
what you
at
have
hand.
what you have to take into consideration, I think, is that ultimately there is a majority of people in this country that are too fucking stupid, pardon the expression, to read between the fucking lines. They don't have
Oh
the
yeah,
sense,
yeah,
the good common sense to read between the lines in what he's saying or what anybody says. So
yeah.
these things get twisted, right? So but now I don't know. Do you think he's stepped up his response game in the proper way? You know, I don't know about this money thing. I don't know. I'm on the fence here. I'm like, oh shit, they're going to send me some money. That part of me is like, oh hey, money. But you know,
Well,
I
that would
don't.
be that's a different. That's another discussion we can get into. But real quick, Sergeant Peterson followed us on D Live. So thank you for following us, man. How you doing? I just saw your sup in there. So yeah, appreciate you stopping by. And Ed also donated 3 ice cream to us on D Live. So thank you for that, man. Hell yeah.
So here's something, Ron.
So
Oh, go ahead.
oh, I was gonna say coming with the sending $1,000, but that's the weird thing is I've seen $1,000 and I've seen $2,000. So I don't even know
Well,
what's going on there.
it's all
I
up in
also
the
saw
air.
it was coming on the 20th. The checks are coming on the 20th, and then I also saw it needs to go through both chambers of Congress,
Right. Well,
which means that yeah they're passing a bill, which means it's not gonna be here in a month.
no,
No fucking way.
the
So I don't know really what's going on with that.
well,
You
basically the strongest one that was being put forward was going to be an April payout and a May payout two checks, but now they may be bringing it down to one with a tiered based off your income kind of thing. So basically, people who make no taxable income will get nothing. People who make over 99,000 in taxable income get nothing. It's in that middle
Mm,
area where people are going to get money from what they're saying. At the present time,
nice.
that's the discussion. But
Right.
Ron Helton says there should be no bailouts, not for business or for the general public. Time to end the Fed and have an honest free market system with honest money again. Okay,
Right. And in
so then
principle, I agree with that.
that would be
How,
great if we're in the middle of a crisis, right?
yeah, I
However,
don't think now is the time
right.
to end the Fed and have an honest free market system, which I would obviously, I'm for that 100%. It's just, if we were going to do it, we should have done it before. We should have never allowed it to happen to become the way it is now. And if we're going to do that, we should wait until after this. I don't think now is exactly the time to end the Fed and,
Well,
uh,
you can't. You
change all the regulations and stuff. Let's deal with the current crisis, and then let's,
well,
it's too late to do it in the back, and it's too late to do it in the past, and I think we should just wait until this whole crisis is over,
right.
and then just get rid of the government as
It
much as possible.
I mean, from a libertarian standpoint, so again, it brings this question up when you talk about no bailouts, no money being given to anybody. You've got governments, whether they're local, state, or federal, but primarily local and state, who are forcing people not to go to work.
Yeah,
They're shutting businesses down. So you are pushing people out of work and telling them they cannot earn money. how do
yeah,
you how do you how do you not take responsibility for that in the form of trying to put some money in their hands? I mean, it's like, okay, you know what? No money. You can't work for an indefinite amount of time. Good luck. Hope you have some savings, which we know that 75% of Americans don't have any money in savings.
yeah. Well, I mean, I understand the not having money in savings because I didn't for a extremely long time until actually within the last like 2 years. It's the first time I was really able to start saving.
Right.
So I absolutely understand living paycheck to paycheck. 100% I do because I did it for most of my life so far,
Are you
and most of my
prepared?
adult life.
Would you be prepared right now to be out of work for a month
Yes,
with no paycheck?
yes.
Would it destroy your savings potentially?
Probably after about 3 months, it would destroy my savings. I would obviously have to make a lot of cuts as well,
Right.
right? I would have to, I would have to stop with the streaming services and,
Sure. Sure.
pretty
You'd
much
have to.
just pay rent. That'd be about it.
And
Food.
I mean, you're in a more comfortable position for saving
Yeah,
than some people, as far as
but a lot to most people. Yeah,
than
absolutely.
your outgoing money every month. But when there's a large portion of Americans that live paycheck to paycheck, so
Yeah,
I whenever whenever Trump said we're going to put a moratorium on evictions and foreclosures right now, I'm like,
yeah.
okay, that's not a bad thing, I think.
Right. If you're going to stop people from working through government mandate, then yeah, you need to use more government power. I understand the reasoning. I
So
just don't think that it should any of that should have happened in the first place. Like I understand why, and I understand that it's a very difficult decision,
yeah,
but people do need to make money. That is what's driving our economy. Our economy is going to suffer
see,
ridiculously because of this.
Sergeant Peterson says he has been laid off as of today.
Oh man, that
Um,
sucks.
and
Like actually fully laid off, or just until this is over?
because
That's what I want to
because
know.
I saw something, I forget who the fuck it was. A company laid off every employee at this at one of their laid off every employee at the location. Basically, oh, it was a
Yeah,
Disney. It was Disney. It was something Disney, and they laid off every employee. And basically, I guess they're just going to rehire new people whenever
yeah,
this is all over. And I'm
and
like,
that's a
fuck,
prudent move to make the perspective of a business. I completely understand, but yeah, that's fucking shitty, man.
right?
That is just absolutely horrible.
And
But I
it
understand the difficult decision that is to make.
right. And
You know,
so
as like if you're a business owner.
So if you over 22 million people,
Just until
according
it
to Ron
clears up, he says. Okay, well, that's not so bad then, Sergeant Peterson. It's not so bad, but it's still really shitty.
Helton says over 22 million people is the reported number that have been laid off since this started. 22 million
Jesus.
Americans. That's where what it comes down to. It's like, okay, so John, let's say you're a governor of a state, and you say
Fuck.
businesses have to shut down, your people can't go to work. Now you have to make a decision. How do those people get paid? Right? Because that
Hmm.
decision falls in your hands. Do you force the company to continue paying wages even though the company is not drawing any profits? Or
No, you
or do you
can't do that.
say, okay, we've got to dip into the budget and give this company X amount of money, and we've got to give those employees X amount of money because we told them they can't be in business right now? Doesn't that responsibility fall on the parties that are saying you can't,
No, it
that are
does. Yeah,
restricting it?
it does. Yeah, yeah. If you're saying you can't, like, you can't operate your business during this time, and you can't have people come in, so you're not able to pay your employees, then yeah, it is your responsibility to come up with a solution for that as well. Just because you're the one stopping them from operating normally,
And you
and you
know,
can't just wreck your own state's economy, thereby wrecking the rest of the country's economy as well in the
well,
process.
and it's because like the average in weekly income, the median income is just under $1,000 a week across the country, right? So some of the argument in Washington was like, don't send checks, just enhance unemployment benefits. I'm like, okay, so first off, you need to take into consideration that that's going to take a large restructuring of what goes on at the unemployment office because there's nothing there for just filing if you still have a job, right? So you got to build that into the infrastructure. But let's understand something else too. If you're making $1,000 a week and you get fired or laid off from your job, I can promise you unemployment insurance comes nowhere near matching that number. Your unemployment
Yeah.
checks won't come near it.
Oh
That's
yeah.
just a short term, minor amount of money to bide you some
Yeah.
time to get a job, and it's nowhere near the income you were making. I've been there and done that. Um,
Yeah.
it doesn't pay the bills. So enhancing the unemployment system isn't going to do it. So yeah, and I'll put that question out to you, Ron. If you were sitting in that seat of power, telling businesses you've got to shut down, then employees have to stay home. What do you do to protect those companies and those employees from losing everything? To be honest with you,
Yeah. Yeah.
because the
Absolutely, they
the
can.
rent doesn't go away, the utilities don't go away. In fact, the utility bills are going to get bigger because people are having to sit at home. I mean, using more power, all that shit. So I'm just, is there a solution there that would actually work when you're already in this situation? We can't unring the fucking bell. There's no,
Right.
we can lament this shouldn't have happened all day long, but we cannot unring this fucking bell. It has happened. Um, I think handing out money is like the only thing they feel like they can fucking do.
Yeah, I guess so. And like who was I think it was Sergeant Peterson in the chat who had said, I wouldn't mind getting some of my stolen money back. Yeah, that's why I'm not really against, them cashing out, just giving people money, just because it's giving you back some of the money they stole earlier. So
Well,
especially if it's not like a constant thing, it's not like an actual UBI, right? It's just kind of,
well,
here, we're trying to help you
right,
out, trying to
and
re-stimulate,
and and
kickstart the economy back
and
after this is done.
they've changed what they're calling it. They're calling it a tax rebate now. They decided to call it that because that will appeal to people like yourself, John. If you
Yeah.
feel like they're sending you money from your taxes that you paid in, you're more comfortable taking that money, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm more comfortable with it. Yeah.
Which is
Although
also what they're doing with
absolutely,
businesses.
which I absolutely understand what Jay Edgar's point of view is saying. What he's saying is that he's gonna rip up the check and send it back to them in DC, and I completely understand that. That is the principled thing to do. It is. So I respect him for
What?
sticking to the principle
But
that way.
but if it's your tax money that you're getting back, why would you rip it up?
Well, it's
That
because
feeds into directly what you want, right? Your money
right,
back in
but
your
it's
pocket.
because of the strings that are attached to it. That's what he's assuming, that there's going to be strings attached to it. That it's not just
Actually,
money just given and that's it.
every voice in Washington is saying the same thing. The only
And it is getting retaxed. He's right. It is going to
well,
get retaxed.
when you spend it, but that happens with every dollar you spend. The dollars you spend from your paycheck were already taxed.
No,
Everything
even
is.
that it's income.
Oh, no, no, no. When Bush sent out those $600 checks, it came as a $600 check, and you didn't have to report it as income because it was a tax rebate. That's how you don't have to report. It doesn't get taxed because it's a tax rebate. It's coming out of the tax pool.
All right, well, Ed's staying wrong, so I'm sure he's busy furiously typing to explain. I
Well,
want to know
hopefully,
what the argument
if
is.
he's got some insight that
Well, yeah. So Ed, let us know
because
what string are
I
attached.
I know whenever that $600 check came out from Bush, it came out as a flat $600 check. There was no holdouts on it, no anything,
See, I
and it
don't know
was
anything about it because I wasn't old enough when Bush
yeah.
was president
I
for any
mean,
of that.
it was the underlying idea that we can't tax this because this is tax money being rebated back to people. That's why they call that was my understanding of it, and I don't remember reporting it. I don't think I had to report it because I didn't
Ooh.
have anything that showed that I needed to report it as income. Didn't get any tax
Yeah.
paperwork, etc. They didn't send that out to millions of Americans. But now, if there's something, how did I get taxed on it, Ed? That's what I'm trying to understand.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean,
yeah. Tell us how,
you can't tell me I got taxed on it if you
but
can't
not
tell me
say how.
how, because I know I got taxed on it when I spent it, much like any other pay I get.
Right, you get your sales tax or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So that's there. But, if it's, I don't know, maybe this is some back end way he's talking about how we're taxed, is, just because bad government, get rid of the Fed. Because I don't remember anything about taxes on that. And simply because, again, that's why I think they switched to calling this a tax rebate, you know, fucking taxes. That would just be crazy.
Yeah, so that's what I thought it was. Yeah, adjust your the IRS will adjust your return based on the income.
Adjust
He's been over this with his tax attorney apparently.
adjust your
It didn't tax
so
inflation.
I didn't get the
I just drank beer with it. I respect that, Sergeant Peterson.
well
I like that.
the hidden tax inflation that's going on every fucking day. This is nothing new. Yeah, I get inflation. Yeah, I've made this bitch before. The cost of goods or wages don't keep up with the cost of goods in this country anymore. Inflation is out the fucking roof.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I get it. I get pumping more money into the system devalues the dollar. I get it.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is, I mean, again, what do you do when you've already been put in this position? It's not about, what you would have done to keep this panic from happening. I get it. We all have an idea of what we could have done to keep the panic from happening. But once it's happening and your people are looking to you to make a decision, hey, you put me out of work. What the fuck do I do? Well, I
Yeah.
mean, that falls on people to have to make hard fucking decisions, and sometimes that decision is going to be a bailout. Now, would I agree with the Obama bailout? No, I don't necessarily agree
No,
with that.
fuck that. That
I
is way worse than what's
right?
going on with this.
This
That's
is a
way
completely
worse.
different situation.
There's at least a reason for this one. Even if you don't agree with the reason, at least there is a reason for this one.
Sacrifice? Jesus Christ! How fast do you think? How fast do you think I can plant a fucking garden out here and get some vegetables going? I mean, it's that kind of thing. It makes sacrifices. I get it, but when you have $0 coming in, that means you need to sacrifice everything. Um, yeah, you can't. And that's the fallacy is people thinking that they can end the Fed. You need the Fed. The Fed is always going to be there. It's got to be there because even in its smallest position, even in its
Well,
least powerful position, the federal government is necessary. There are certain
the Fed, the
aspects.
Fed, the Fed is the Federal
Oh,
Reserve.
the reserve. Well,
Yeah,
yeah, but
that's what they mean. That's what libertarians mean when they say
oh,
in the
okay,
Fed.
okay.
It's the Federal Reserve, not the federal government. Although
Well,
most want to end that, or at least yeah,
I
or at least
gotcha.
minimize it. But yeah, ANCAP will usually say the federal government needs to go as well.
Well,
Um,
okay, so then that means,
but
and that could possibly work to a certain extent if you can get the government's fingers out of businesses, and businesses would stop giving people this idea that this shit needs to be regulated, because that's where it all comes down to. It's it's weird, but I mean, it's like, doesn't the isn't the Fed kind of like a watchdog on like interest rates and things like that? And yes, I know that they take them too high sometimes, or this, that, and the other, but I mean, isn't that what's supposed to keep everybody across the country legitimate and as far as lending from the global banks and shit? Because
I
it's
am
an
not at all qualified to have that discussion at all. I don't know nearly enough about the Federal Reserve and what it does.
now he says we can rely on charities to reboot, and
He said that he says they did it during the Great Depression. I don't know anything about that.
we
I'm sure he's right, but I don't know
you
anything about that either.
what was it that was put in place? What was the new government socialist program that was put in place directly to address the depression? What was that when Social Security was enacted? What was
I
it?
don't know.
It was either there was something that went into place that to address the Great Depression from a
The
financial
Great
standpoint, from
Depression
the
was in the
federal,
20s, right?
yeah,
Or
from the
no, it was
federal level.
after. It was in the 20s, or was that before?
Oh, and the $2 trillion that they have to do this comes from a computer. And what you do is you go on a keyboard and you hit
And you
two and you follow it
put your
with
elbow
12
down on the
zeros.
zero.
You just
Yeah.
hold zero.
And
Um,
then now, poof, there's your money. Money printer go brrr. Yeah.
old
That's
age,
the meme going
yeah.
around in libertarian circles.
So old age assistance. He says old age assistance. So yeah, Social Security. But
Yeah.
the key behind that was, it was one of those things that the government put into place so that they suddenly had a large pool of money gathering that they didn't have to pay all of out, so they had capital to work with. So, I wouldn't say charity was the only thing that helped end the Great Depression. The government got fucking money from enacting Social Security and had a shit ton of money to start playing with.
And Ed's saying, didn't you make the money printer joke while I was playing New Vegas the other night?
I
I
don't
did.
I don't ever. Oh,
I
you.
did.
Okay,
I
gotcha.
did. Yeah. I did.
Um, so, and it's, this is, it's charity is good, but see now, it's it's how charity works, like that I like, because when you talk about charity, so two things where charity, well, one I'll call charity, the other I'll call what's the word, philanthropic, for the best. So Walmart is going to institute bonuses for all of their employees. So if you're a part-time employee, they're going to give you an extra $150. Now, granted, this is just a one lump sum, so it's not a lot, but it's something. And for full-time employees, they're going to cut all of them a bonus of $300. So they're doing that mass. It's going to be about a $500 million that they're going to spend to give all their employees some extra money to get through this, even though they're not shutting down, but it's to help in case employees need to self-isolate or do actually contract the virus. So they are also doing 50% disability if you contract the virus or for whatever reason have to be quarantined at home, whether mandated or self-quarantined, which is
Yeah.
nice. And then also they're going to take their next quarter bonuses and they're actually going to pay them out a month in advance, so that those people have an influx of cash as well. Anybody that's part of the bonus system, which a lot of their employees are, but they're gonna
Hmm.
they're gonna forecast ahead and go ahead and pay those out a month before they're due. Very, very nice thing that Walmart is trying to do for their employees. Um, Turn around, another great thing, restaurant in Texas. It was either Houston or Dallas. Mom and pop place, employs about 30 people. Couple comes in, and they sit down and they eat a $90 meal at this place. So they get through, they pay with their credit card. When they get done paying the check, they put down a $1,900 tip. And then
Wow.
on the credit card, wrote in another $7,500 tip and left a
Holy
note on there for
shit.
management to use this to help their employees get through the next 2 or 3 weeks. And the man,
Holy shit.
and the owner was like, This is amazing. This is awesome. He said, none of this is going to management. I've got 30 employees on the roll. We're going to break this down and dole it out to all those employees so that they have some extra income because we're being limited on what we can do from the restaurant, etc.
Right, and this is kind of what Ron Hilton was getting at, is that charity will do it, and that's just individual charity. That's not like an organization or anything doing that, right? That's just
Sure.
people
And
with excess income, obviously,
but
who
the
are giving back, and people will do that. Not everyone, not even most people, but it absolutely will happen. Yeah, and that's fucking awesome.
I
Big
will
ups to those people.
I will
Hell yeah.
I will say from my cynical side that one thing that I am seeing a lot more of, and yes, we can talk about how the media reports things, whatever. That's an aside. I see a lot more I've seen more instances of the price gouging, as it were, than I have the charitable things that are being done.
Well,
I
yeah,
mean, there's
yeah.
some. There was the basketball player that donated $100,000 in Cleveland to the arena. He donated $100,000 out of his own pocket so that the arena employees would be able to have cash influx while the arena
Hell
shut
yeah.
down because of the NBA shutdown. So you are seeing little things like this happen. But remember, for taking care of the bulk of American, like the charitable needs of the Americans as a whole, when you're talking about, not wealthy Americans, not middle class. I mean, you're running a good 45% of people that are well below the middle class income. It takes large amounts of money to really help all
Of
those
course.
people and to get that
Of
money out
course,
to
yeah.
them. Now, if it, I'm waiting for someone, I'm looking for someone like Buffett, Gates, these guys to look at to.
Gates did start doing something.
I'm looking
I
to
don't have
they
all the details, but I know that Gates stepped down from the board of Microsoft, and he's using his
right.
time for philanthropic
Yeah, but
ventures.
he's been doing
He's been
philanthropic
doing it
things
forever.
for a long time.
Oh yeah.
Primarily focused on education and learning is where he's usually been at. One of his big things was building robotic schools. And getting those
Hmm.
going is one of the things that he likes doing. But yeah, I mean, it's not to say that these things aren't happening, but are they going to have? You've got to in this situation where we are talking about 3 out of 4 Americans are being affected by this panic, this situation, 22 million people out of work, being laid off. It takes substantial money to really help all those people. And, again, it comes back to when you're in a position of power, you're backed into a corner in how to take care of your people. Can you really, I mean, can you, or do you put a call out and you go, hey, all you charitable people and charitable organizations, go to this website. Our government, the state government, has set up a GoFundMe. Start donating money that we can dole out to the lower income citizens in the state who are being put out of jobs, etc. Now that might be an option that could work, right? I don't know how much you would see, but it would definitely let you see how charitable the Americans are as a whole. Maybe that's what the federal government should do. Right. I
Yeah.
mean, it's not it's not a horrible thought to draw this money in. Okay. We're going to put this we're going to put $500 billion in the pockets of Americans, and we're starting a GoFundMe. Those of you who have wealth, that have money and are philanthropic or charitable, donate to this, and we can put this money towards that $500 billion that we're doling out to the American public. It'd be an interesting
Hmm.
experiment, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think most things should be crowdfunded anyway, um, with the exception of things like the military. It's probably about it. I mean, whatever few federal employees, like their salaries and stuff, I can see why that would not be crowdfunded. But other than that, yeah, most things I think would be better off being crowdfunded because then it's actually the will of the people. You either have the money to do whatever project or you don't.
So
And it would make the government have to act as servants rather
mhm.
than authorities.
Well, again, it's not about being beholding. These would be, it would have to be no strings attached charitable donations, is what
Yeah.
ultimately. But so in that hypothetical situation, if we're talking about the sum of $500 billion, um, if that were to happen in this fictional world, what would you speculate? How close would the American public come to reaching that $500 billion goal in donations? Whether
Okay.
whether it be from rich people, corporations, whatever. How close do you think?
Oh shit.
Do you see $500 billion worth of charitableness in? Oh, why is he being hidden?
Oh fuck.
Why is he
I don't
wanted?
think there's anything I can do for you there. I don't think it'll show up on the replay though.
What happened?
Nothing. I don't want to draw attention to it, even though he's doing that himself. But
Yeah,
yeah,
he should be
let's
able.
just move
He
on.
should be able to do anything from a wrench standpoint that he needs to do. You're a
Yeah,
moderator. Moderate yourself. Uh,
that's right.
Brendan Hildreth in the chat said something and it was deleted.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. See, people say bad things and then it has to go
they
away.
do.
Just fucking
Yep.
shit. Hopefully he won't come. Hopefully he won't come back.
Hopefully he won't be coming back.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't like people like that.
that
But
fucking
but
guy.
thank
Fuck
you
that
for
guy.
thank you for deleting that. We've only had to do that what 2 or 3 times in our entire history when some
I
schmuck comes in saying something stupid,
right, talking shit.
right? Yeah, we had somebody show up in the fucking chat running their fucking mouth. John had to delete him out.
Yeah, fuck that guy. Hope he
He
never comes back.
he had to be the big gub, the big gub. Bring the stick down. He had to bring the stick down. Uh, Helton says his grandfather never paid into the system. They sent him a check for 50 something dollars. He mailed it back. Now, when you say he never paid into the system, does that mean he didn't pay taxes?
Wait, what happened?
He says his grandfather said it never paid into the
Oh,
system. They sent him a check for 50 something dollars. He mailed it back. He said that was taking something he did not
I
pay
think
for.
he's talking about the old age assistance something. I don't know.
Oh,
But
Social
obviously, his
Security?
grandfather was a man of Social Security. Obviously, his grandfather was a man of principle, which
Yep.
again I respect. But since he didn't pay into it, he's not taking from it.
So
So I respect that.
small business owner. Well, if he was drawing an income from his business, he paid into it because you've got to self tax. If he was taking payroll, right? I mean, he had to be making money as the business owner, so his income was being Social Security taxed if he was on payroll, because that's a standard, right? You
It
can't get
depends
away.
on what it was.
Well, that's what I'm
It
saying.
depends
If it was
on.
payroll, right? If you do payroll like a W-2 payroll, if he was paying himself in that way, he would have been paying into Social Security, but maybe he never did that. Um, he says Gates pledged $10 billion for vaccines. That's awesome. Uh, Old age assistance at first. If you're taking Bill Gates' run, he stepped down at a very recent, very strange time. There's actually some interesting theories about him being involved to some pretty shady shit with this outbreak. Oh my goodness. Yeah, go figure that they're going to try. I mean, they'll try and tie anybody though, Sully. They'll try and tie anybody into it. Uh, he said not everybody paid payroll tax. It didn't start until during or after World War II, and that makes sense. I mean, I understand, but I mean, because eventually they made a change to where even if you're the CEO, the owner of a company, you've got to pay yourself out as an employee so you show income. I think you have to do that now. So, but yeah, if he never paid into it, yeah, I can understand him not taking the money. But if they're sending you,
Yeah.
if they tell you they're going to send you $1,200 as a tax rebate, and they're not taking any money, if they're not taxing that other than the general shit that you deal with every day with money that you spend, that's your money. They're taking it out of the tax fund. I mean, now granted, they're going back to 2018 because they have a full tax roll to look at from there as opposed to 2019. So you're going to be a year behind in how they judge your income. But still, if it is going to come out of the tax pool and come back to Americans, by all means, send us our tax money back. And
Yeah,
that,
but I want all of my tax money back,
oh, see, now you got to get
not just a
specific, right?
stipend.
Right,
No,
and
no,
I
no. I've said that way before
well,
on this show.
but that's not a
All of
reason to
it.
not take it.
Right. No, I mean, and that's what I told Ed is that I would absolutely take the money. I'll probably buy a new computer with it. You know.
How
So
about we pay off the
I
national?
mean,
The,
wait, what?
Ed says, "How about we pay off the national debt before we start sending out money?"
Oh, that ain't fucking ever gonna happen.
Well, you know
That
what?
ain't ever gonna goddamn happen.
You know what would make a big difference in the national debt is if we just canceled out all the mutual debt. Like, I mean, I don't understand this idea that okay, China owes us $5 trillion, for instance, and we owe China $5 trillion. That shows as a deficit for us, shows as a deficit for them, and it's like we owe each other the same amount of money. Let's just call it fucking square.
Yeah, that's not really how it works though.
But
But
you see what I'm saying, right?
no, I know, and that's kind of the it's kind of the fucked up thing about the national debt system is that every country owes money to other countries. So one country really can't, like, in a practical sense, really can't call in the debt of another country because then they have to start printing a shitload of money. Then that money becomes worthless, and so yes, they get the amount that they're owed, but that money's not worth anything. So they didn't actually get their money, and so you kind of have to just operate as though that money exists when really it doesn't. And so it's just this really fucked up system, and yeah, so it's basically all operating on the fact that we're just never going to call in each other's debts.
Right,
We're just going to keep acting as though we have this money
right,
or that we're going to pay it back, and you really don't.
and it's fucking crazy. And Helton says there is no tax fund. He said everybody's now paying tribute money to the government. Nobody can be paying taxes. We have $22 trillion in debt, and I agree. But you pay taxes in. It's just they have the system set up to where that money just immediately starts directing into these budgetary programs. That's what the budget's. That it just funnels into where the budget spending is supposed to go, right? It
Hmm.
doesn't. It's yeah. I know it's not a pool, and basically what is I don't know where they're going to come up with the money. I don't know how they're coming up with the money. I think again it's come to the point where we don't have to print money anymore. We just have to enter it on a keyboard. We don't have to guarantee that there's they try and say that we're going to guarantee there's enough cash, but are they about to print $2 trillion in cash money?
Not in cash, no. It's going to be digital, obviously.
Right. So it's all digital now. So you can create as much money as you want. Yes, I know it
Right.
devalues the dollar, but the bottom line is money is these money numbers have become fictitious creatures. The only
It's
money
absolutely fictitious.
the only money that really matters is what you have in hand in cash, which you can go to your bank and draw out in cash.
No, even that is just kind of saying you have this amount of imaginary money in your hand.
Well, wait, but
It's basically it's the same thing as writing down on a piece of paper saying I have this much money,
well,
and then
but
giving it to someone, and they say, okay, yeah, you have this much money. Now I have this much money.
but when it's
That's all it is. But you really don't. There's nothing behind it,
well,
right?
sure,
That's the point.
there's nothing behind it, but there doesn't have to. If I have cash in hand, there doesn't have to be anything behind it because when I go into a store, that hard
That's
currency
what
is
right. That's what I'm saying, though.
that's all that matters is that hard currency
Yeah,
in the
that's what I'm
store
saying. Is
when I'm
that
buying.
right? That's all I'm saying. That's what I'm saying, though, is that we're agreeing that that piece of paper means something,
Right, and
because it
that's
really doesn't.
well, no,
It's
I
just
get it.
that we agree that it does, and so
Just like if it
therefore
was
it does.
shells, shells wouldn't mean shit either, right? It's
Right.
just the medium. And that's why these numbers, when we talk about this national debt, we talk about the GDP and we talk about the stock market, I'm all like, okay, so everybody wants to be playing fantasy football with our money. It's like, we're making this. I honestly believe that the national debt, the government will allow that to continue to climb for the simple fact that the larger that debt gets, the more power they can lay their hands on as they try to control it. I think it's an avenue for more power for them. The more we go in debt, the more the government is needed.
Yeah,
It's just a
yeah, it's
mechanism.
true.
Because how
It's ensuring its own survival.
I mean, the perfect picture is when you have a president 3 years into his presidency and he says we have the greatest economy ever. Yet since he's been president, the deficit has continued to climb by
Of
almost two
course,
two
yeah, of
trillion
course it
dollars,
has.
right? So immediately you can see that there is no correlation between our economy and the national debt
Well, so right, yeah, exactly. Because the
without spinning
national
a
debt,
story, right?
well, the national debt has nothing to do with the how the economy is doing.
But it should.
Because
It should. It should, right? I mean, it should.
right, but because the debt is technically real, but the money that was loaned isn't real either. So none of it is real at all. It's all just kind of we're agreeing that it's real.
Right.
So therefore we're acting as though it is. And so it's more about how much of this fake money are people making and how much of that fake money are they spending, and that's what's driving the economy. Whereas the
Right.
debt is how much money the country is borrowing. So how much
Right.
fake money are we borrowing and
Right.
spending?
And that's the thing is it all just becomes a fantasy football game, right? It's
Yeah, I
a big
mean
fantasy
the
football.
whole thing is a fantasy. Yeah.
Ed points out, he says, which is why I'm bothered by this because at a time where production is grinding to a halt, the money machine is going motherfucking burr, and I have to
It
I
is.
have to agree with this because the whole point to sending this money out is to get cash flowing back into the system to try and stave off any major recession from this, right? But as he said, production in many ways is grinding to a halt, right? Companies are not producing because they're warehouses, manufacturing, they're having to send people home. Can't be in groups like this, can't do this, right? Production grinding down. The only place that people are going to have really to spend this money on are some of the grocery necessities that they can have delivered and
Hmm.
rent, mortgage, utilities. Sending
Yeah.
this money is going to be being sent to companies that are going to pool their wealth. They're going to hold on to their money. They're selling fucking stocks, trying to make sure they hold on to as much value as they can, and
Yeah.
as much wealth. So where the
And
money's going this time? Mm-mm.
Sergeant Peterson here is making a good point, but the food and my guns that I purchased with the not real money is real. Right. So you're getting real things with fake money. And that's why the system works. Not that it works, but I mean it that's why it does work, but it's not sustainable, I think is what I should say.
Oh, just FYI, Sully, Ed is making a reference to Demolition Man. Was it? I
Yeah.
believe it was Demolition Man with
Demolition Man.
with the three seashells, because
Hmm.
instead of toilet paper in the future, they used three seashells somehow, and they never explained how it was done. But it was a real culture shock for what's his McNugget, Stallone in Demolition Man. Awesome movie. I thought it was pretty. The major restaurant, the one restaurant that's left is Taco Bell. They bought everybody. I'm like, damn. Uh, you got yells Rip. Another movie reference, very good Spider-Man reference. Um,
Yeah.
so so when it's all said and done, John. I mean, it's like why not? What difference does it make if they send out money into to the American public? It's all fake money, right? You
Right.
know,
So, well, that's the thing, though, is it's how so it is fake money, but we're pretending that it's real. So we're acting as though it's real, which means that if we actually had something behind it, the value is going down. So as many of these pieces of papers that you have written down saying I have this much money, the more of that in circulation, right, the less you're going to be able to buy with it because it's not going to be a big deal. It's like, oh, you have $100,000
well, yeah,
money on this piece of paper. Oh, you put a
inflation
couple of extra zeros, great, right, inflation.
inflates
But
prices.
and
Yeah, and I get that.
yeah, and that's why that's a problem that we got off of the gold standard in the first place is because with nothing behind it, you can just print as much as you want. And of course, the idea was that we weren't going to, but of course, government being government and its necessity to always get larger and always when it gets larger, it has a bigger budget. Well, like with anything, if a business gets larger, yeah, it's got money coming in. It's got more money coming in because it's larger, but it's also spending more. So again, it's fake money, but we're acting like it's real. And the point that Ed's making is also true. It's a digital economy now. So now it's just numbers. We don't have to write it down anymore. It's just displayed for us how
So,
much of this money, this fake money that you have.
if we were to go ahead and like actually transition over to Bitcoin, um, is Bitcoin is considered backed, right? It would be backed by would that be real money
I think so.
since it's decentralized and it's no, because
I
it has to
don't
be
know
backed
enough
by
about Bitcoin.
it has to translate into
It's
a spendable
it's
currency
into
till it
right.
becomes
Yeah.
its own currency that's usable. But then
Right.
then it's still just digital currency.
Yeah.
And it's constantly being created, but there are because of the decentralization, the level that it's created at has stopgaps that basically that help it retain its value somewhat. But I don't I don't know how it all works, but I don't think it works that great because the spike, like the way Bitcoin would rise, it rises and falls, doesn't seem like it's really backed by anything except the American dollar, and you can't have Bitcoin do that if it's for it to be a really for it to be a viable currency, in my opinion, because
Yeah. Well,
everybody
because
looks at Bitcoin as to how
Bitcoin,
it translates to dollars.
right? Well, it's backed by like Ed is saying in the chat. I'll give him credit for it. I was gonna say it, but he said it first. That Bitcoin is backed by the U.S. dollar.
Right.
So you know what I mean. It's backed by something fake already. So it's not a perfect solution, but I think it's a better solution in that it's first of all it's decentralized, and secondly, I don't know. Uh, I don't know if it's even better. Is it? I mean, I think it's better in that we agree that it's worth something based on U.S. dollars. I don't know.
That's what.
That's not a good thought to have. Hang on, because I'm thinking out loud. So
Well, I think it all becomes
I'll be
it
perfect.
it has to be standalone currency for it to be self-valued,
Well, it
right?
needs to be backed by something. Yeah,
But
and being
but
backed
does it
by currency doesn't do anything.
does it
But
ha-
also,
does it have to be backed by something besides the because isn't that the point to having different bitcoins? Like for instance, there's if you have a bit, so I'm going to use examples. I'm not sure if I'm not saying the bitcoins are out there, but if you have Bitcoin for Coca-Cola and you have Bitcoin, for Pepsi, these different ones, those are backed by the value of that company. They're backed by that, aren't they? Or I don't know. See,
well,
it
they at
gets
least have
tricky.
something tangible, right? They have a product. That's at least something tangible, right? You have X amount of Coca-Cola cans. You know what I mean? Like if you have, Coca-Cola comes out with their own currency. It's backed by a tangible and physical product. There's X amount of Coca-Cola cans in circulation.
Right, but the downside is you're only able to buy Coca-Cola products with it, probably.
Wait, say that again real quick because you kind of cut out.
I said the downside is you're probably only going to be allowed to buy Coca-Cola products with the Coca-Cola Bitcoin. That's what a
Oh
lot.
well, but no, but if somebody else says, "Okay,
Oh
yeah, I'll
yeah, if
take your
somebody else says
Coca-Cola,"
right,
right, because they know it's backed by
sure.
something, so it's a real
But
currency.
but my guess is that they would take that. For instance, if you went to somebody, went to Pepsi to buy something, and they said, no, we'll take Coca-Cola Bitcoin, but we see it as a lesser value, so they may devalue it from their personal standpoint by accepting an off-brand Bitcoin. But
Sure.
it doesn't reduce the reality of the value of the coin. Just because somebody is devaluing it, that's just something you come to an agreement about the true value of the coin to that person, right? So it doesn't
Well, you do
diminish.
that with money too, right? I mean, you do that with
Yes.
anything.
Sure, especially like in places where you can barter and say, you know what, I'll give you 15 for that instead of 20. You're
Yeah.
determining the value of the money and negotiating the value of that. But one of the things that's been happening a lot with Bitcoin is there are a lot of companies that are producing Bitcoin as a rewards program. Like you get Bitcoin for specifically to that. I want to say that I saw 7-Eleven was dabbling in doing a Bitcoin reward program, and then you would have Bitcoin that you could go into 7-Eleven and specifically use to get rewards, freebies,
Right.
this, that, and the other by spending your Bitcoin with that company. So that's a trend that's been going on in Bitcoin, different companies doing it, but I don't know how well it's succeeded. I haven't been back. I took a break from Bitcoin about a year ago or more,
Hmm.
and I haven't really been seeing what the markets and what it's been doing, how it's been evolving, as it were. I'm more in line with things like our digital information being blockchain. That's where I want to see blockchain really helping us.
Yeah.
Is to
Yeah.
decentralize fucking social media sites, decentralize things like
Hmm.
this. I think I told you at one time I was doing some editing, some proofing for a book that I haven't looked to see if it came out yet, but it talked about taking the social world, the social media world, to a blockchain, social spheres, as it were, and it was through validation and peer review that brought you to levels where your opinion in a social sphere made a difference. Like your opinion had value based off the community response to you. If you're a fucking troll,
Mm.
and people are
Oh.
not paying in loyalty to you, then you're
Yeah.
low. It's just when you talk, people just see, okay, this is a person that the community, this sphere, and typically these you were talking about social spheres, like think Facebook groups, as it were,
Yeah.
where it might be about engineering or whatever. So if somebody's just in there talking a bunch of shit, the community is going to devalue their opinion because they're an asshole. But if someone is in there
Yeah.
producing cognizant information, real things that are impactful to the community, they get loyalty rewards from the community. They pay them in social currency, so that they
Hmm.
they become they take a higher level than just a community
So
member. They're more of
in
an
that
expert in the field.
in that hypothetical world, you're talking about like trolls and stuff. There would absolutely be troll like communities.
Oh, sure.
You could still absolutely make money being a troll or make currency, being a troll.
Right. But
But
much
I
like
guess other
Fort.
people who are like that would give that person,
Sure. But that would only.
some currency out of
But
it.
but what's not.
Currency.
But what's not going to be in there is much like 4chan. The people that don't want to be in that community sphere, they won't ever join it, or they may and then
Yeah.
see what it
Yeah.
is and piece the fuck out.
Yeah.
So it'll just be a community of trolls seeing who's the best troll, and
But
that's
see,
great.
okay, so here's how trolling works, right? You can do things like brigading or just
Sure.
general raiding.
Right.
So you can go into like the engineer, community, and you can say something that's really fucked up, but the other trolls will find it funny, and they'll join that community as well, and then upvote you or whatever thing you need to do to get social
Sure.
currency, and
Sure.
you'll actually gain
However,
currency from that. I would
however,
imagine. I don't know exactly how what the book that you were
well,
reading
by not by well,
worked with that, but
well, the decentralization helps with that. And
yeah,
ultimately, if you came in being a troll and you're talking about brigading, the community has the ability to very quickly shut that down and,
sure.
and drop it to such a level that it just doesn't even get noticed in the community. And it doesn't take a lot. It didn't take a lot of effort to do so. It
So
was
I think that
just.
would also kind of limit. No, maybe. I think there's the potential, at least, for that to limit innovation.
Yeah,
and that you would be afraid to come up with something new or say something, especially in like a scientific or like an engineer, unless you could show your work, of course. But coming up with new ideas,
I
I
don't think
think it
so.
seems like it would be frowned on there just because, people might see it and be like, oh, whatever, that's kind of interesting. Or, oh, this would never work, downvote. Or,
Well, I
I
think
don't know. I
you
think that
have
would
to.
kind of,
Well, think about it
because you
like
would you would be doing whatever you could to make as much of this social currency as you can. So you would only want to kind of create that echo chamber.
no, 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 no.
You
You
would only
you
kind
earn
of want
you
to.
earn that currency by providing information that is intelligent information, things that because you have to think about these social spheres as peer groups. So it's, take one for gardening. You know, if
Mhm.
somebody knows what they're talking about with gardening, people are going to give them social currency and drive them up to more expert level in the group. But
Yes, but
like look
I
at
think
science.
people are
Hold
going
on,
to.
hold on.
Okay.
Look at science. What is one thing that is constantly happening in science when somebody is making a new discovery or trying to discover something new? They look
Peer
for peer
review.
review, which is what these
Yeah,
social spheres would be. You're talking about
absolutely.
groups of peers. So these would, the bulk of who's in your social sphere,
Right.
this one social sphere, are going to be gardeners.
Right. But no, no, no. I'm saying even within like their own community, like if we're just talking about gardeners, let's continue with that example. Um, and you see this a lot on any social media and any kind of group that you have, uh, where especially I mean mostly with memes, but it could be with any idea, right? Where you post something that everyone else has been posting, you're going to get a lot more upvotes than if you post something new, if you post original content.
Well, original content is
Original
an important
content,
part of getting social
it
credit.
is, but it doesn't get as many upvotes as something that's been going around for a while already.
Um,
So, and I'm mostly talking about memes, right?
yeah,
But it can also be extended to ideas,
right,
right? So,
but
if you're
you
saying,
can't
"Oh, here,"
the
like I can go into a libertarian group right now and just be like, taxation is
right.
theft and the Fed, and I will get a lot more upvotes than somebody who has some kind of long, post about original ideas on how to do or how to operate a society through libertarian principles. So not trolling at all. It's an original idea that's going to get way less noticed than someone who's just like in the Fed, taxation is theft, right? That's going to
Okay.
get way more attention.
Yeah,
So you are more
I,
incentivized to post that sort of
I,
thing than you would
I
otherwise.
see what you're saying when you're looking at it from a non-blockchain perspective. But this kind of social media, the way it is set up is looking for new content. It's looking for new information in these groups. It's putting you at the level of an expert because you're bringing new ideas, new content to the table,
I mean,
and discussing it and setting yourself up as an
well,
authority on
so
a topic as opposed to just someone who's a cheerleader running around. The idea is that the person that just comes in as taxation is theft
yeah,
is not helping the conversation, right?
right. No, no, I agree. It's
On
not.
social
Yeah,
media, it gets lots of likes and this, that, and the other because it just is what it is. I mean,
but
how many of those people are
so
not
that's the
even
thing.
peers?
That's the
That
thing, right? In this book that you were editing, does that actually work because it would work, or does it work because
it's
the author
no this.
says that it will work?
Well, this is
You know what I'm saying? In his
he
own
that.
world or his or her
Whoa,
own
whoa,
world,
whoa, 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 whoa.
it works because of that. It
It's
works because they say so.
anything that you try and set up like this. Whenever it's a new thing, it's all
Hmm.
theory. Yes,
Of course, of
this is
course.
the expected path and how it would work. And we had
See,
to.
I disagree. I don't think it's going to happen.
Okay, well, see, the beauty of the blockchain is you get to set parameters that people can't fuck with. So, like, you get to determine how social currency is doled out, how it can be removed, even without the community removing it, only by your activity in the social sphere, um, whether it might be negative, etc. Um, there are it's there, to a certain extent, there's self-moderation that goes on with it. Again, it's blockchain and it's set up to be decentralized. So there's not just one person running the show. It's like everybody has an input and a voice. Everybody
Yeah,
has,
that's social media. Yeah.
but the difference is if you don't belong in that sphere, if you don't belong in the rock climbing group talking about rock climbing, you will pretty much be shunted out very
Yeah, but
quickly and very
that's
easily.
not what I was talking about though. I wasn't talking about somebody just
But
coming in and saying things.
but if you're not bringing credible, relevant content to the table, no, the whole point behind it is to drive conversation.
Right.
It's about talking about things. Is what you're saying relevant to the conversation? How important is it? It's talking about having social spheres where people are actually talking as opposed to just headlining.
Yeah.
You know,
But see, that's the thing is, I think that world would only work because the author says that it works. I don't think that that's something that you could bring to
but
the real
there's
life, the reality.
but you don't have we don't have a model to work from
Right.
where
I'm not
where
making a
hold on
definitive statement.
hold on we don't have a model to work from where social repercussion affects you, your legitimacy as much. I mean, there's the cancel culture, these kind of things, but that's all troll mentality, stupid shit too, most of the time. But we don't have anything where the sphere itself, the community itself, is self-policing. You know, like the community is the moderator. It's like you
Hmm.
can't, the best you can do on social media sites is block and report, these kind of things. It's a wild, wild west where it's free for all. The
Yeah.
social sphere idea on the blockchain puts some corrals around things and legitimizes what people are saying. It's a way to, for instance, this is a good way to differentiate between fake news and real news. So, people can read an article, take a CNN social sphere. If enough people are saying this is biased, this is biased, this is biased, then CNN's relevancy as a social sphere, its digital worth goes down. And people can see that before they walk into that social sphere. And they say, okay, CNN is not trustworthy because the social spheres say it's not. The community says
Hmm.
it's not in a majority. So it's ranked here, whereas this other media site has the same amount of people looking into it, and they agree that this is trustworthy news. This is trustworthy information. So it allows the voice of the community who doesn't trust CNN to shut CNN down, but it could not shut them down, but you know what I'm saying, delegitimize their voice, and that's what it's about. It's just
Yeah.
try. It's a way to weed out the chaff. Let the community weed out the chaff, and it doesn't shut the trolls up so much as just
It makes them irrelevant, right?
their words become irrelevant and don't take part
Yeah,
in the conversation
absolutely.
because
But
you
yeah,
don't.
so I understand that we don't have a model for this. All I'm saying is that, again, I'm not making a definitive statement on it. I'm
Right
saying I don't think that it will work.
now,
And in the
here's
way that whoever you were reading, is saying that or portraying,
well,
I
right.
don't think it would work that way.
I don't think I
Because
don't think it could be instantly put into place.
no,
It does
I
work.
don't even think instantly. I'm saying I don't think it would end up that way. I don't think that that would be the end result. What you're saying.
Well, I guess like I said,
I mean, I
the way
like the idea,
the way the
but I just don't think it would work.
the way the parameters are laid out, and unfortunately I can't share it so much. I mean, I can talk about
Yeah, yeah,
the
no, that's
bigger
fine.
idea
That's
of it,
fine. Yeah, yeah,
but it's a functioning system that would self-regulate by the community.
yeah.
I mean,
I get the
it is
idea.
possible, and I
I
mean,
like more of what Midget's saying here is forced anonymity and freedom to post is best. Good ideas went out. Proper posts do receive appreciation. Shit posts and chills get called out, and it's up to the lurker to sort out the truth, which is 100% true. That's how, and I think, I mean, yes, obviously I'm biased because that's exactly he's describing 4chan right there. Is what
yeah.
he's describing. That those three statements are 4chan. That is like the entirety of it. And it works. It has worked for so long. 4chan's been around since what, 2002, 2004, 2002. I think it was 2002 because I found it shortly after that. I was like 12 or 13, so that would have been 2002, 2003 when I found it, and it's been that way, forever. There's no login. You're just anonymous,
Okay.
and so every post, it's not like, oh, I know this person, I'm going to trust them, because you don't know who it is. So each post stands on its own merit, and you're either going to get called a faggot or you're going to be people are going to agree with you, and they're going to say, oh, okay, yeah, this is true, here's my 2 cents on it. And that's when a post becomes a thread,
Right.
is when either
Sure.
you're either being called a faggot and fuck you, shut it the fuck up, kill yourself, or hey,
Right.
that's really interesting, let's talk about this subject. And that post gets tons and tons and tons of recognition.
Okay.
That's exactly how 4chan works,
And
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 that
and
hasn't
how
been working
and how does you
since
suck go kill
2006.
yourself help? If it wasn't there, it wouldn't be missed, right?
Well, okay, yeah, that helps because it's being called out, and that
That's
the individual who's posting that is less likely to do shit like that in the
okay.
future,
But
because
you
you said something stupid, or
a
you had
shit
kind of
post. Whoa, 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 whoa!
misinformation,
I
or
I disagree that a shit post adds to the conversation.
a shit post isn't always something that's just like a troll. It
I
could
didn't say a
be
troll. I just said a shit post typically doesn't add to a conversation.
okay. In what way? Because I disagree.
Well, I
So
I mean, okay, so you make a blanket comment like, that's fucking stupid. Go kill yourself." That that in and of itself, what relevance? What I mean, back that up. Why am I stupid? Where's the discussion there, as opposed to you just
yeah,
throwing a troll comment out?
right. Well, okay, so that's obviously a generality.
But it's a shit
Usually,
post, right?
so
If
you would
those
be
weren't
told at some point. No, no, no. I'm talking about in response to a shit post, or in response to someone saying something stupid. You would be like, "Hey, you do the." Most of the time, yeah, you would get called a faggot several times, but somebody in that post, someone in that thread would,
I understand there are
explain why.
right, but if I can go into a conversation and not have to look at 50 shit posts just saying you're a faggot for saying that, you're a faggot for saying that, so I can just get take part in the conversation, I would be happy. If there was a way to filter shit posts, I would be happy. I would read more
But
fucking mess.
that's
I
not
would
what it.
take part in it more.
That's not a shit post. Just calling someone a faggot is not a shit post. That's not a shit post
What
at
would you
all.
call it?
That's just a response. That's just exactly what Mitch is saying here. It's how you feel. You should be allowed to express it. If I feel like you're a faggot, I
Sure.
should be able to call you a faggot,
Okay.
and that's it.
So
Hide
that and that's
post, yeah,
great.
exactly.
And
Hide
and
post.
and and I agree with that. And I'll tell you, and I'll use chat here as an example. We have two forms
Hmm.
of chat we can select, right? Live and top, right?
Right.
And it changes what you can see, right? Because some
Yeah.
posts only make it in live chat, they don't come to the top chat, right?
Right. And I always have
So
live chat open.
so if I could go on Reddit or 4chan and go look at a conversation and set a filter that said, I don't want to see any posts from anybody with a relevance below 45%. And all of
Hmm.
those go away so that I can just stick to the 55% of the conversation that I want to be a part of or delve
Yeah.
into. That's what social currency does for you.
I would have no problem with that as an option. I wouldn't want it to be mandatory. And I wouldn't want someone else to decide, like one person. I know, obviously, you said it was essential. The community itself decides which posts are relevant and which ones aren't. So I get that. And yeah, I agree. You should be able to filter that for yourself and not have it filtered for you, if that makes sense.
Now, see, now Midget says there absolutely is a way to hide whatever responses you
A
want.
way to hide whatever post you want.
Filter meme flags, hide slide threads, sage shitty threads. And I get it, but just FYI, I've been around the internet long enough to know that no matter what you have as far as trying to filter out content, um,
It'll make its way in.
they will find a way to do it, right? And they
Yeah,
will still get it
absolutely.
around those parameters so you see it. The ones that really want to stir the shit and really make their shit post or make their response. And they want it to be seen
Well, they
even
also
by the
get
people.
craftier with it.
Right.
They also get craftier,
Sure.
which I find brilliant.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like those old green texts
Sure.
on 4chan where you would have like this massive story, and at the end of it, it's just like it just becomes the lyrics to the Fresh Prince of Bel Air, right at the end. So
Right.
like, or open the door, fall on the floor, everyone just dinosaur. Like
Right.
that was another one that was going around for. That's
Right.
still probably going around. I mean, that's an ancient ass meme. You
But
know what I mean? Like, and those are fucking hilarious. I find those hilarious. I
yeah.
love just reading the long ass story, getting invested in this person's story, and then just bam,
Right.
troll. And I'm just like, oh, dude, that's brilliant. Like, you got me. You know, I love that shit.
As when it's all said and done, it's the kind of thing that, um, like you were talking about with upvotes. If you don't have a certain level of digital currency, social currency, I should say, from the community that I'm taking a part in, then I don't want to, I would be happy to filter all of it out in one fell swoop. You come on as a new user, yeah, you're going to fall into that category till other people who are not filtering you out give you upvotes to where they pick you up past the point where my filter is. I mean, and I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
That's what I want is I want a decentralization that allows the community to control the conversation from the standpoint of
So
relevancy.
what it should be is the individual control of what they see. I think is more of an apt description. Ed is asking, what say you on dark sarcasm in the classroom?
Oh, fuck that. No,
I
there should
think
never be any of
the
that in the classroom.
teachers should just leave those kids alone. That's what I'm saying.
Look,
Leave those
I
kids alone.
I am of the opinion very point blank when it comes to education. You are a teacher. You are there to do one thing, teach. And what you teach is the fucking facts that are in the fucking book. And I understand that history is written by the goddamn victors. But
Hang
when it's
on,
all said and
Robert.
done, what?
Are you not picking up on the reference?
No. Is that from
Really?
dark sarcasm in the classroom? Is that from a movie?
Yeah. No. It's Pink Floyd.
Dark sarcasm in the. Oh God, I
Yeah.
wasn't even
Another
putting the
brick in the
lyric.
wall?
Yeah, I wasn't even. I got you. Never mind. Okay, no, rant off then. Yeah, okay. I wasn't in. He's been
Fucking
quoting
bastard.
movies all night. I didn't think to go to music. I wasn't thinking
Wait, the D
lyrics
live chat is
because they.
off? Oh, we're not restream isn't working anymore. That's weird.
Wait. D Live says I'm online. We would have gone to a new
No, no, no,
stream.
no. We're online. It's just that the restream bot isn't working.
Well, there's no.
At least going from D Live to YouTube. That's weird. But welcome
Oh,
to YouTube, Sergeant Peterson.
that's
Appreciate you making the way over.
that's weird. Yeah, because I'm not seeing him popping up in there. Um,
Yeah, he made his way over to YouTube, so it's all good.
he says Helton says stratification of information is why we are now in this fucked up pandemic that should never gotten this much out of hand. Flights out of China should have been quarantined. The CDC
All
should
right,
have prepared better.
give me one more second to take another.
Yeah, have fun with that. I agree with you to a certain extent, Ron, but if we were in a situation where again these news sites like fucking BuzzFeed and the National Enquirer and the Washington Post and the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal and any of these had social currency or attached to them as far as their relevance, I think we would see a big shift in the readership of a lot of this stuff and how seriously it's taken. If people knew that CNN ranked pretty shitty as far as giving unbiased and relevant news, I'm going to go read somewhere else more than likely. I'm not going to, or I'm going to take whatever they say with a fucking grain of salt, and I'm going to be less likely to panic. Um, it's one of those things where it's like that's the problem with the media right now is we don't know who's putting real things out. We don't know who's spinning their own narrative into these scandals and situations. If we had the kind of ability to rank these things, I don't know. I mean, just walking around calling them all fake news is not the answer, because we see that happening from certain angles. But I mean, we can't qualify everybody as fake news, because there is real news coming out. Um, yeah, some of it gets wrapped up in fake narrative. It's odd, but we have to have a way to decentralize information to where it is a more robust bit of information that we can actively seek the 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 socially acceptable, the newsworthy information that's out there. That's how we need to be able to get it. I mean, it would even be so far as, to say that, okay, this guy is a great reporter, he's a good journalist, but he works for a shitty media company. So, maybe his own words as a person, his relevance and his worth are more valued than the company he works for. And you get to balance those things in and determine, okay, do I fucking listen to what they're saying and panic? Or do I get on about my life and read the real news from the real sources that we as a community as a whole have said are real shit? Oh, I agree. Most of the media has shown itself to be incompetent in providing good information. Even the government has totally dropped the ball. And I will say this, bear this in mind. I don't care what anybody says. You can, people can try and play the partisan role and say it's one side or the other. Both sides of our government, whether it's Republican or Democrat, I don't give a fuck. They all control what goes out to the media in regard to a lot of these things, one way or the other. Whether it's leaking information, whether it's giving somebody the scoop on something that's about to happen, whatever the case may be, both Republicans and Dems are feeding news media, and they're also feeding narrative at the same time. They make deals with these fucking reporters. Hey, I'll give you this exclusive if you run with this. Do this, do that. Both sides fucking do it. I don't care what anybody fucking says. We can hate Democrats for, right now they're the target. They're the ones fucking with media, and they're the ones putting out all this fake news. And okay, great. But if you think Republicans haven't been doing the same goddamn thing for a long fucking time, you're a fool. You're a goddamn fool. The media is a tool of the fucking government. There is no freedom of press for the most part any longer, because most of that shit is government directed. Now, you can agree with me or not if you want, but I think it's true. I absolutely believe it's true. John, do you believe so?
Sure. I wasn't listening to most of it. I'm actually opening the treasure chest on DLive at the moment.
Shut up.
Wait, and
make sure Sergeant Peterson's still in there, or he comes back.
Yeah, make sure you go back in there. You got 30 seconds. Because I also added 50 lemons into it as well to give you guys a better payout. Although I think Ed's going to be getting it. So good on you, Ed.
Helton says CNN has lied so many times. Who would bother listening to anything they say at this point? They're the boy who cried wolf. I could agree with that, but the people that are going to listen to it are the people that are being challenged to listen to it by every politician or person that tells them it's fake news. It's a Schadenfreude thing. People are going to, and even go so far as to pay heed to what's being said because somebody told them it's fake news, and that's the buzzword for,
I get that, but at the same time, I think you can basically you can accuse any news source of being fake news because no news source tells the truth or 100% of the truth 100% of the time. I don't care who it is, right wing, left wing, whatever. None of them tell 100% of the truth 100% of the time.
Yeah.
And so it is up to you as an individual to disseminate the information, or to at least to filter through the information and find the truth by reading everything and finding the similar threads between them, and then that's usually where the truth is.
Now, see, and this is why I say social currency, social recognition, social currency, as it were, adds a level of
Well,
legitimacy if the community as a whole has determined,
in a way, but there's also this person or this news source is saying the things that I want it to say, so
Sure.
I'm going to give it social currency. And that's not just me, right? That's also,
Okay.
10,000 other people. Now it all of a sudden it has,
Right.
uh,
But you'll have the
now
balance.
it has legitimacy that it might not. But then, yeah, there's going to be people who hate that news source regardless of whether or not it's true, and
But
they're going to be
sure,
downvoting it.
they may see a small spike in their social value,
I don't think it's
but
going to be small,
it's just
especially
like
with brigading
just
going
like
on
you
rating.
always say the fair market will work itself out.
Yeah.
If you have this free market, it's the same thing. Social currency works itself out because there's going to be a balance. For every good fucking article that they would put out, they're going to put out something fucking stupid too. I mean, there's going to be enough, and it's not like it's going to be a system to where their social currency is only valued on what they're saying right this moment. It's talking about this is overall community.
Overall, yeah.
Yeah, this is going to be the kind of thing where they're building a reputation.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
So
That is fair enough. Yeah, no, I mean that's a fair
and
point.
being that it's on the blockchain, it's a lot harder to game the system.
Yeah.
Because there's so many intricate details to manipulating information and manipulating currency. Unless it's gotten easier, I'm sure hackers have been working overtime to find ways to fuck with digital currency, Bitcoin as well, or any kind of digital currency like that. So
So hang on, let me shift for a second, because Sergeant Peterson said he's glad he found us. Let me ask you something. How did you find us, Sergeant Peterson? Because I know you're in Steven's chat all the time, but I saw that you just subscribed to us on both DLive and here.
boy,
So
you're
I'm just
nosy.
curious as to how. I'm just curious. He doesn't have to tell us if he doesn't want to tell us. He doesn't have to tell us. Fine. There's no gun to his head, at least from us.
Right.
At the moment. So I'm
Um,
just curious.
Ed says he thinks that we should sit like good disciples and be afraid of what MSDNC tells us to be afraid of. And if you refuse, then you're a bigot and Trump is Hitler. We are pre-Nazi Germany. Okay, now it's I will say this. Let me ask you this, John.
Hmm.
You've said before that I don't think you agree with this, but don't you? Do you think at all that take Trump for instance, if he were able to have a little bit more control over what the media said about him, he would take it?
I don't know because I don't know him as a person. I only know what the media tells us he is, so I don't know.
Well,
'Cause I don't trust that either. So hang on.
okay.
Because that is the point of us having a decentralized government, is so that even if it doesn't matter if he was the most controlling person on the planet, he's not supposed to have the power to do that.
Well,
And I
right.
completely agree with that, with him not having
That's
the power to, or
okay.
anyone
Yeah,
else.
and that's beside the point.
So
This is.
it's not
I'm just
that is
asking.
why we have those controls
Okay.
in there, and I don't
No,
know
no.
him. I haven't
Hold on.
spoken to him.
Yeah, you don't have to speak to him to get an idea of
I
what he
do
thinks
because
because
everything.
hold on, he blasts what he thinks on Twitter constantly. You don't
If
have
you
to
think
know
those
him.
are, if you think those are 100% his like legitimate thoughts, like thought to mouth, without a filter, then you're just believing everything the
Okay,
media
so
says, which
whoa,
again could be
hold on.
accurate, but no, everything he says for the most part is calculated on Twitter. It's
Okay,
calculated to get the media response.
okay, okay.
So
So
I don't think that is even legitimately the real him. I don't think anyone, even his wife,
he's a
knows who the real
douchebag.
him is.
So then the real him is just a douchebag that chooses to do that as president of the United States.
No, I think it's a calculated decision. I
To be a
don't think that
douchebag, right? It's a douchebag
to
move as a
to
president.
pander to his base. Yes, I think that's what he's doing on Twitter.
Okay.
Is he's pandering to the people who agree with him already, who support him, and trying to get some people over to his side, saying, "Hey, look how great I'm doing! Look how great I am!" Like that, and
Yeah,
it's worked. That's why
if
he's.
that was the only thing he was saying, I mean, but he says things, this calculated shit like, This so and so newspaper is fake news. They posted this stupid story about me. Somebody should put a stop to them.
Right, but he
You
doesn't
know,
have the power to do it. So
I know
him
he
saying
doesn't. I
that
did,
means
but
nothing.
okay.
So
So,
it costs him nothing to say that. Other people who already don't like him saying, "Look what he wants to do,"
John,
but they already don't like him, so
John,
they're not going to like him.
I can guarantee you that there is not a president alive or
Guarantee
dead.
it.
From my own opinion, I can guarantee you that there's not a president alive or dead who didn't wish that they could completely control what the fucking media puts out.
They did. They used to. I
When would
forget who it was. Cameron could probably help us out with this more. I cannot remember who it was. One of the first few presidents famously gave an interview to the media while taking a shit in an outhouse, and they weren't allowed to report that he was taking a shit in an outhouse during an interview.
Well, sure, that's just courtesy. The shit is off the
No, no,
record.
no. It wasn't
Everything else is,
courtesy. They weren't allowed to.
right, because it was off the record. The shit.
No, the interview wasn't off the record.
No, no,
Shit
no.
was during the interview, so
No. The taking the
they
shit
were
was
not
off the
allowed
record.
to.
Like you
No.
can, you can interject
They
things
just
that are
didn't
off
have
the
cameras.
record before the
That's the only
fact.
difference. The only difference is
See
they
what
didn't have
he went
cameras
into
at
it.
that time.
He went into it. He says everything my ass says is off the record. What I say from my mouth is all that matters. See, so
But no,
they couldn't report
now
what his
you're
ass
being
was
the
saying.
troll.
I'm just saying, you know. So, but what would have happened if they had run with the story? What could he have done? He didn't have the power to do anything.
Right. But no, I mean he apparently they had more control over it at the time.
Maybe he had something to use against him. I don't know.
It was more likely that the Supreme Court had not made a decision on the constitutionality of like what is legitimate media, and so therefore what can you say. So like if you're the media, because I don't know, I'm just speaking off the cuff here. I do not know why, but I think that's why is because the Supreme Court hadn't considered the media being protected by the First Amendment
Right.
in that way.
Right.
That way particularly, right? Like they could talk
Right.
shit about the president if they wanted to, but they weren't able to say that one particular thing that he was, in the middle of taking a shit, a smelly, dirty, nasty shit.
Well, if they wanted the interview, just don't report on
And
the
he's like,
shit.
hey, listen, I'm a busy man, but when I'm taking a shit, I don't have Twitter,
Right.
else. Might as well, give an interview then. I take a shit at 10:15 a.m., so be there, and I'll give you an interview. I could see that.
I mean, just what my ass says is off the record. Yeah.
Right. So I don't know what the deal was at that point, but so people. What my point is though that presidents have had control over what the media can and cannot report, or at least the government. I don't know if it was the president himself, but they were restricted on what they could and could not report on, and that was one of the things at the time. And that's off the top of my head. I'm sure there were other instances, but I just found that hilarious, so I wanted it up. But
the reason why I would guarantee that every president feels that way is for the simple fact that everybody under the president, or most of the people under the president, are actively controlling the media, right? As I said earlier, leaking this and putting this out there and trading sound bites and, playing the game, and controlling like a puppet master the media. And it's happening on both sides. Why would that desire to do so stop when they reach the White House?
They're controlling the information being released. It's not the same thing as controlling the media like the DNC does. The DNC actively controls the media, but not in a,
if the media prints what
I'm going to do something to you, but it's I'm going to do something for you so that you do this.
Okay,
it's not a negative thing. It's saying we're going to actively help you do this, especially because most of their reporters are on their side anyway. And there is a legitimate reason why most reporters are left wing. It's not some kind of conspiracy or anything stupid like that.
Well, no, they're always trying to expose the man.
No. Most of it is because the media headquarters are in major cities, and most people in major cities are liberal
Look,
or left wing.
look.
That's the main reason.
Let me
And it has nothing to do with some kind of conspiracy.
let me
It's
ask
just
you.
that they happen to have the same politics because they're in the same place.
If you have a puppet, who's in control? The media is used like puppets by Washington.
But they're not, because the media's all against the current administration.
They're just. I
So
didn't say. Whoa, 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 whoa.
they're not. I
I'm
don't
talking.
understand what you mean.
I'm talking about Democrats and Republicans. I'm not just talking about Trump and the administration. I'm talking about Washington as a whole. So many things go on with it. I mean, it's you can look at stories that make the news and come out of Washington, and it's like, you can see that this was fed to them. I mean, why do you think they have press constantly camped out inside the White House, in Congress, in the
Hmm.
Senate? They have these reporters sitting around, the press hanging around to catch this, that, and the other, and they talk to these politicians, and these politicians want to get things out to the public, a little early, or give a hint, or give this and that. I mean, if they're doling it out, they're in control, right? If they're making deals to get
They're not in
information and trade,
control
they
of the media. They're in control of information being released.
I then
Now you
then
can criticize that all you want.
I,
Absolutely, you can
but is it?
criticize
How can you
how
say
they're
the
releasing
journal?
information.
How can you say the reporter is not their puppet by putting out the specific media that they
No,
want?
no, no, no. Because they're not their puppet. They're not
But
telling them what to do and what not to do. They're just controlling the release of information, that's a completely different criticism, and I think that there's a lot of legitimacy there, but
it was like
it's not puppeteering the media.
So Ron Helton pointed something out earlier. He said 1975 Church Committee, the CIA admits to planting stories in the media. Now, and I wanted to touch on this because this is relevant.
Hmm.
The amount of misinformation and disinformation that was going on during the Cold War was
Oh God,
insane. And
yeah.
and it was being fed to the media. The way
Hmm.
things were being, all of this was, the government was feeding the media, CIA, FBI, all these different groups and organizations or politicians, they were feeding the media information, you know, narratives that they wanted out to the public to hide, whether to hide information, to hide things, whatever the case may be. And that's constant. I mean, and I fully believe that if you're the guy that is sitting there like a dog waiting for one of these politicians to throw you a morsel, that person with the morsels is in control. And a lot of these guys will just take whatever they get, whatever scraps they get, and run with
Yeah,
it.
they're doing their job. Yeah,
And but
yeah, they're doing their job with what they have. Yeah, absolutely.
so I mean, there is a certain level of control of the media, not just the
Right, but
content that goes on there.
if you think that Trump and even his administration has anything to do with what the CIA releases, then but that's not the case,
Well,
right?
I
The
didn't. I'm
CIA
not
is
saying that, but when it's all said and done, if the CIA it does something shady, guess what? The buck stops at the fucking president. He's the head of the chain, right? He's the head of the food chain there. Now, it's not to say that he called for it or did it, but
right.
that's
That's just where the buck stops.
it happened
Yeah.
under his watch. So when we look at a company, we look at whatever in the
Right, but so the
that's where
thing
the
is, it's
buck
like
stops.
you say, right, that's where the buck stops, and he's supposed to be the one who's responsible. But if everyone else is against him, then how can you possibly blame him?
Oh, sure.
You know what I mean? Like
Fortunately,
you
he's
can't
not in
blame
that
him for that.
position.
The CIA and the FBI are absolutely against him. Both of those agencies are anti-Trump.
Everybody is not against him.
No,
You
no, no. I'm
can't,
not
you
saying
can't,
everybody.
but
I'm
you used
saying
that word just a moment ago. You said if everybody's against him, but everybody's
right.
not.
But I named two specific ones who are,
But
without a doubt,
I'm sure there's factions.
demonstrably.
I'm figuring there's factions within those groups that are against him. Yes, I
Yeah,
would.
the important ones, the ones who
It's
are
neither.
releasing information, the
Okay.
ones who are taking actions,
Okay.
are the ones who are against him. So yes, the top level
But
are against him.
you
That's
do.
why he's replaced the FBI director. That's why he's replaced the CIA. I'm pretty sure
Okay.
I'm
And do
actually
you
not
think
100% sure on the CIA
and do you
director,
think
but another FBI director was
you fucking
replaced.
think those directors are making autonomous decisions to go after Trump?
Yes,
No.
I
This is
think they are. Yeah,
you
they absolutely are.
if you think for a minute that members within the Democratic Party in Washington did not push, cajole, deal, wheel to get these guys to do shit. I mean, why would the FBI just up and decide they're going to fuck with Trump unless somebody told them, "Hey, you should fuck with Trump.
Okay,
You're on
so
our side.
yes,
You don't want
no.
him in office or not." Right? So
What about the text messages between fuck, I can't remember who it was. I know they were in the FBI. Can't remember
the guy and the girl,
who it was
Lisa
though.
Page.
It might have been when they were talking about like what are we gonna do if Trump is elected? And they're like, we're gonna try and stop that. We're gonna do everything we can to not let that happen. I
Right.
can't remember who that was. I'm sure someone in the chat will remember off the top.
I forget what his name was,
Uh,
but it was Lisa
I
Page
think
and Adams. No, was it
and
Adam? I
Peter
forget.
Struzik.
Peter Strauss.
Struzik. Yeah,
Strauss.
yeah. So that's who I'm talking about.
Okay. So yeah.
Right. So that's one instance that leaked. I don't know what else. There's probably been a ton. That's speculation. But
Okay.
just leaking that saying we're going to do everything
Yeah.
we can to not make that, not let that happen.
But they weren't the
That
director
is
of the
horrible.
FBI.
Correct, I think. Yeah.
And I don't believe that the director of the FBI or the CIA took autonomous action just to go after Trump. There was motivation. They were motivated by somebody.
Right, but if you think they're the only ones, then like I think you're naive in that point.
But he's got tons of people in his camp in Washington. I mean, fucking Mitch McConnell, he runs a pretty tight Senate there with a bunch of folks on Trump's side. I mean, look at the impeachment vote. The impeachment vote was as good as done before it ever started.
Yeah.
So.
But that's the kind of thing is like, I don't blame them for playing partisan politics like that because that's how the game is being played.
Mm-hmm.
You have to play, if you want to win, you have to play the same game that the other people are playing.
And all I've ever said about Trump is that I wish that he was more focused on healing those divides than widening them.
But see, the people who are in this kind of the other side of the divide, I suppose, are not interested in being healed, as it were, with
I can give you that. I can give you that.
They're not interested in that. So what's the point in trying? All it's going to do is weaken his position.
Right, and I can give you that. Their only hope is to get him out. That they want is to get him out of office, and I completely get it. And there's a lot of fucked up shit, right? But that doesn't mean, in my opinion, that it is in his best interest when it comes to the general public, the citizenry, to see him. Now, if he wants to go behind closed doors and say this shit to these people and lambast them and everything and be divisive behind closed doors in Washington where we don't see it or we just hear about it in rumors, oh, Trump, went after Democrats today and did this, this, and this. But for him to put it in our faces where we have to, in various ways, depending on our culture, depending on our nature, depending on our whatever the case may be, interpret what he says in a myriad of ways. Because that's what we do as a population. How many different interpretations are there of anything that he says? To put the division out there publicly and add strength to it is basically what it feels like he does. He adds strength to the division.
He does, and I'll tell you why. So something, and Sergeant Peterson stage WWE. I don't think it's scripted. I don't think there's actually it's planned, right? But I do think it's performance. But I'll tell you exactly why he can't do that. It's because everyone is inundated day after day, no matter where you go, with Trump is, he's racist, he's Hitler, he's, every kind of phobic under the sun. He's all of this. And if he just kind of keeps to himself and doesn't respond to that, how does he look to the American public, to anyone, to the rest of the world? How does he
Sure.
look? He looks weak, right? He looks
Right.
extremely weak. He looks like
Well,
he has no backbone. He looks like he can't stand up for himself. He has no choice but to do this. He has absolutely no choice. They have given him no choice but to act that way
but
because he has nowhere else to go. He has no
but see you
side other than some parts of Fox News,
you say
which
that.
people already just go ahead and discredit because they're Fox News, right?
But see that you say that, yet he takes that out into the world in person as well. I mean,
Again,
and
he has to.
why, when you're talking about how world leaders are going to see him and everything, when he's the same asshole there as they're seeing him being so strong and being this asshole on Twitter, when he's that same asshole to their face, a
Yeah,
lot of them have not been happy about who he is as president.
but he has to act like that because the camera is on his face. Every single
Right.
syllable that he utters
Because,
is repeated in the media and spun or whatever.
and it's like
He has no choice but to
he
act
has a
that way.
choice. He has a choice.
Not
He
if he wants to. Not if he doesn't. Not if he wants to get reelected for one, and not if he wants to be strong as opposed to weak.
so so but that kind of flippancy, that kind of attitude, this is one of the things in the current situation that we're in where a lot of people are now questioning him. They're looking at him in a different way. Now, maybe it's all the same people that have always been looking at him that way, but I refuse to believe that many Americans are not looking at whether it be that whether it be from the standpoint it's like, okay, he was flippant, didn't take it serious, and now all of a sudden it's blowing up serious in our face because now he's having to step in. And then it goes to these other people who are like, oh, look, this asshole, he is an asshole because he's going to step in and start putting regulations on us and telling us what we can and can't do and what we can't, how much money we can spend, and we can't buy shit up, we can't hoard, we can't go to work. You know, he's, that attitude, that persona may not be the best person to be representing this situation.
Well, I think that he's kind of settled down on that sort of
He has somewhat.
rhetoric. I think because I think he's actually responding very well to this crisis, and that he's saying, hey, he's sending a message of hope as opposed to like saying, hey, this is not actually the end of the world. It's gonna be okay. Trying to or at least bring down the panic that is going around, which I think is the only thing he really can do.
Right.
Right. So I think that he's actually handling it pretty well compared to, how someone else might handle it or compared to how he's handled other things. He's handling every situation uniquely
Well, yeah, but
as opposed to just
there's
kind of being a dick for everything.
there's a lot
In
to
fact, he was criticized on fucking
you
CNN
can you
Politics. He was
I
criticized for doing that,
okay,
for sending
right.
out a message of hope in the dark times. It's fucking retarded. I'm telling you, there's
why
nothing you can do to win.
because he wants everyone to just fall back on the better late than never mentality.
No, what
Because
he's
for the
saying is like,
first
look, this is the situation we're
no,
in.
no,
There
yes,
is
now
hope.
he's
You're
taking
not fucked. It's
hold
fine.
on. I know he's taking it seriously now. But he appeared to not be taking it seriously when, as even people have pointed out in the chat, when he should have started taking it seriously, he didn't.
Sure,
And
sure.
and
No, it's not that he
but
didn't
now
take it
nobody's.
seriously.
But you can't be in a just
It's
because he
not
is
that he didn't.
just because he's taking it serious now doesn't mean you can't point out the failings in taking it seriously in the start.
I don't think it was that he wasn't taking it seriously. Right? He wasn't. It's not that he wasn't taking it seriously. It's that he was panicking.
No, he
He was
wasn't
trying
panicking.
to. He was trying to go towards the business as usual step, which he found after a while. It's like, all right, that's not going to work. Obviously, we need to take more measures, and then he reacted
Bullshit.
appropriately.
He was actively
No,
blowing. Or
not bullshit.
in the early days, he was actively blowing off.
You cut out.
Shit.
I didn't hear what you
I
said.
said
Dylan.
in the early days of this, he was actively blowing off important information that was coming out from the CDC, and he's like, it's not that big of a deal. Our economy's great. keep going. We're great. And it was when the stock market really kept fucking tanking that he started taking it seriously. It was the money that made him take it seriously, in my opinion.
Okay, but he took it seriously. He was saying,
Yeah, because it was
okay,
affecting his bank account.
yes, hindsight is 2020. Yes,
But you can't. But
but
we're not allowed to call that out. That he had a
no,
shitty response
yes,
to this.
you can call it whatever you want.
That's what I'm
I
saying.
don't think he had a shitty response. That's just not my opinion. I don't
Then
think he had a shitty response. I think he waited until it became an actual problem
right.
to respond the way that he has, and I think he's done a great job since.
I mean, he could
I
have.
don't think that there was a need to respond that way, but it was the media driving people to
Sure.
respond in a panicked manner, which led to
Right.
the economic downturn. I don't think he had anything to do with it. And I don't think that he could have foresaw that because, again, it was the media going around saying, "Hey, everyone, go and buy shit and prepare or whatever," and people buy toilet paper for some reason, whatever. But
But I
that's
get
the main point,
to.
right? Is that the media's got people all
I
fucking riled
understand.
up,
I
and
understand
he's like,
that.
okay, well now I have to deal with this.
Okay,
Like that's the whole
I
point.
understand that the media. I get that yes, the media drove a lot of, because there was a lot of misinformation going around, and that in and of itself, misinformation from various sources mixed with factual information from various sources and hybrids of the two, that's going to cause a panic, right? But it had to be coupled with what as I said earlier, when we're talking about the general lemming mentality of our citizenry, they're seeing serious information coming, being reported from the CDC and the WHO, just, depending on who was spinning it and what the article said. But there was information in there coming from these people. And then they see the president conflicting that by saying it's not that big of a deal. Don't worry about it. You're like, okay, I've got two important sources telling me things. That kind of added to confusion.
Absolutely, it did.
And so I
But what's he supposed to do in that case? Be like, everyone panic! Holy shit, we're all gonna die. Well, like, what's he supposed
because
to do?
because mainly from the standpoint that he had available information that said the same shit that's happening in China right now, this is going to blow up throughout the world because controls were not put into place quick enough. It's going to happen here and we need to address it. Soon as he hears that, that's when he's got to go into crisis recovery mode, whether at a low level or a high level. He's got to start doing something, unless you're saying that the sources you're getting it from aren't priority enough.
And who's to say that he wasn't? I
Well, I
mean,
mean, he wasn't doing it vocally, is the thing, and that's what the American people want. If he's going to be
right?
fucking vocal about everything else, be
He was
vocal.
trying to keep people calm, like in
Sure.
spite of the media.
And does his transparency not come into question when people watched as China was already being
No
accused
one's
of doing the
no one's
same thing?
ever
They were
no one's
minimizing
ever
it.
accused Trump of being transparent.
Well, no. I'm saying, but that's my point. That comes into question as well when we're at the same time we're seeing that reports from China are being shaded. They're being quelled. We weren't getting the information we needed, and
Yeah.
he knew that early on as well. I mean, it's
hmm
this kind of thing. You've got to think. If you're playing 4D chess, you've got to think, okay, is my lackadaisical response to this going to bring my transparency and my legitimacy into question?
So yes,
If you're
again,
looking at
hindsight
election,
is
you got to.
2020.
Right. And he should be foresighted in that as well as everything else. You say he 4D chesses his
Okay.
way to reelection. He
So
should have.
so I don't, like I said, I don't buy into the 100% 40 chess. Like yes, I think there are moves
Well,
that he makes that
calculated,
are
however you want to call it.
that are well calculated.
If everything
But
says
this one, he obviously tried one thing. The media was like, "No, fuck you. We're gonna, cause panic." Whether that was intended or not, they're like, "Oh, we're gonna cause panic," and then he's like, "Okay, well now, due to this updated situation, I now have to react this way." That I don't see how like he should be completely criticized for all of this.
I'm not saying he
I
should be
mean,
completely criticized. All I'm saying is don't be surprised if people point out his faults in this at the same time they're talking about the positive things he's doing.
But
it's
they're
gonna
not talking
happen.
about
That's
positive things he's doing. No one is.
well, if they're reporting, you
He's
said they
still
were,
Hitler.
like you said
He's
they
still
were.
racist and Hitler.
Okay,
And
you don't have to throw that out there because that's
but he is.
irrelevant to what you
That's
said.
what. It's not though.
So
He
they
still is
call
racist
it. So they call
because
him.
he said the China virus.
So
He's
the
racist now.
oh well,
Again.
I understand. I understand people have been saying that. I get that. I'm just talking.
Yeah.
You used a specific example about an interview that they were doing, or that they were
Mhm.
talking about something that he was doing, and they kept pointing out the mistakes as well. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, it's going to happen. I mean, that's the mentality that we're in. That's what we're in these days. And I have to tell you this right now, John. I fully believe that had any other Republican been elected besides Donald Trump, we would not be in this crazy, weird political realm that we find ourselves in now.
Yeah. Not nearly as much, I would imagine. Yeah.
I mean,
Because
they wouldn't have been going after him,
establishment hacks.
right? They wouldn't have been, but he wouldn't have been. Well, maybe not.
Mhm.
I have to say, somebody said it earlier that, it's a lot like reality TV.
Yeah.
I think he brings way too much personality to the stage in this and not enough president. That's all I'm saying is I don't think it's playing into his
I
reelection as
don't
well
know.
as he
I
wants
think
it to.
honestly, I think this crisis has been the most presidential he has been since.
He has started being so. Yes, I agree. I'm not saying that he wasn't or that he's not. I'm just saying that he wasn't he didn't fit the bill for me in the early stages of this. I think he could have moved faster in certain ways and done certain things. Like I believe Helton said earlier, should have shut down fucking travel to China way fucking quick. As soon as we heard that this thing was a thing that was spreading and fast
Yeah.
in one of the most populous countries in the world,
Yeah.
shut the fuck down because fucking Plague Inc. The video, the CDC.
Okay. And what do you? So wait, hang on. So let's take that first. What do you
You
think
weren't
would have
you're gonna let
happened?
me finish my thought. God damn it!
You did though.
No, I
You
was just
did.
about to tell. What did I say about Plague Inc.? What was
It
I?
doesn't
What was I
matter.
saying?
Well,
See,
you're just gonna talk. No, you're gonna go on about how infectious it is and how it's going to
no,
spread from
that's
one
not what I
to
was going to
another
talk
and all
about
this
at
kind of stuff.
all. I was going to talk.
No.
I was going to talk about the fucking plague models that the CDC tied in with Plague Inc. They have been for years looking at their plague model, and they used this, and these were the kind of results they were showing to President Trump in the very early days of this. Plague
Right.
models that are very accurate in how it was going to spread. So he should have acted quicker, knowing that he was, the CDC, his own, our own people are telling him that this is what could
Okay.
happen.
That's fine. Anything could happen,
He
right?
should have acted quicker, and a lot of people agree.
I'm sure. Again, hindsight is 2020,
Okay.
right? So at the time, right? What do you think would have happened if he just reacted as soon as they said, "Hey, look, this thing's in China"? If he just reacted with "Shut all travel from China," what would have happened in the media, and therefore the rest of the people who don't like him?
Well, since the media was already on the breaching the threshold of multiple pieces of misinformation, as I said earlier, all the mix of information, they were on the
Mhm.
precipice of. It would have just been more of the same. It would have been counter contentious stuff. There would have been others saying that that's the smart move
He
to
would have
make.
been
It would have
he
been
would
the
have been
same thing.
racist. He would have
Sure,
been
all the
destroying our
same.
economy.
All the same things would have happened that are happening right now, and he would have
But it
acted.
would have been worse because they would have been like, "Oh, this isn't even a non-issue. Not even a threat. What is he
Yeah,
doing?"
you know why it's not a. You
So,
know
but
what?
now that it's a
If
threat,
whoa,
it's not as bad as it
do you
would have
think
been back then.
if he had come forward and said we have legitimate intelligence, legitimate plague models, we have legitimate information from WHO and the CDC that says that this will spread outside of China and spread to a large degree. It is in our best interest to curtail travel to
Yeah.
China and to bring American citizens home from China until this blows over. And if we had stopped
Hmm.
that would have been a very strong precursor to making sure that this did not spread to the extent that it may
Hmm.
spread with lesser action. I'm, that's their job. Fuck them. Fuck what the media says. It's their fucking job. Go if you have to do it, you do it.
Yeah, and I'm glad you agree with that. However, most people, at least most people who don't like him already, would not have said that. I mean, again, he would have been just lambasted in the media day after day,
Yeah,
week after week
sure, to a certain extent.
for that.
But you know what plays to his advantage is he has a very high popularity rating. He's polling well he was polling well
Yeah.
in his campaign. He's doing great in the numbers category. So he's in a plus position to make a move that safeguards Americans, and the people that are supporting him would have very
But
much
even
been
his
like,
supporters
well,
would have
hey,
been kind of like, "Whoa, what's that
maybe
about?"
they
Like, that's
might
kind of weird. No, they absolutely.
they might question, yes, but that
But
doesn't mean they're going to pull their
right,
support.
some people might, and but again, he would. There's no way for him to know that they wouldn't have pulled support, because it could have been like, okay, I think you're kind of overreacting. You know what I mean? Like, this is kind of overreacting. Now you're stepping on, trade. You're stepping on the economy, which is his biggest thing. That's the thing that he puts out over and over and over again, is how good the economy is. That's what he ran on in 2016. Was he's going to do great things for the economy. And so by stopping trade and travel to China, it would have been, oh no, you're wrecking our economy.
Wait,
This is the thing that you promised us that was going to be great, and it was great. Now you're stopping that
okay,
for
so
no reason, because this
no,
is a non-issue at the time.
whoa, 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 whoa! It wasn't a non-issue there in China,
Right,
and
right. But
and and
here, it was a non-issue.
the economic impact was written on the wall when
Right,
they
but you're
saw
being
what
reasonable.
was going to happen with the virus. Now I'm talking about what should have happened in Washington.
Right, what I'm
If he
saying,
saw
you're being reasonable.
either
I'm talking
way,
about the average person
okay,
voting on.
and he could have spun that. He could have put that out there the right way. The way to save this great economy that we have is to protect ourselves from the citizenry standpoint, so we don't have to shut down production, so we don't have to do these things. We can quell the virus from coming into the country as much as possible. And he's not stopping trade just because we're not flying in and out of China. They're working on. They're more worried
Sure.
about cleansing the things that are coming in and keeping the ships
And
clean.
those things also take time.
Sure, but that's if there's going to be an economic impact one way or the other, because you're talking about a widespread pandemic in a country that is one of our primary trading partners. If you don't see the writing on the wall from what your organizations are telling you about what this virus is more than likely probably going to do. I mean, he was going to look at an economic hit either way.
Right, but you have to Robert, you have to look at it from his perspective, and also look at it from the time before we have all the information that we have now. Because again, hindsight is 2020. You can look at the information we have now and apply it to back then,
Sure.
and say, well, this is obviously what should have happened. That's easy to do, right? But when there's all this misinformation, you think he's getting one report that is 100% accurate? Or is he getting a ton of reports from
Well,
different things that are all, they're
the,
all contradictory, and he
well,
has to make a decision based on that contradictory
you
information.
you trust the people that you have in place, like the CDC, to tell
Right, but
you the right
again,
information, and
getting
they
contradictory information,
no,
and they're
no,
getting contradictory. You
they
don't
were
think the CDC
they were looking at the virus.
information?
They were looking at the virus itself and what its capability was. This is
Okay,
they said no matter this was something the CDC put out early. It's like no matter what misinformation China has been putting out, this is what it will probably do. This is the expectation from this virus. They looked at it from the viral standpoint, not just based off the information they're getting out of China. They ran the models, they ran the numbers, they looked at it and how it would spread based off of everything. That's the information that you've got to really look at and go, okay, now I have to make a decision based off this. So then
okay.
becomes the question: how long do you try and just tell the people everything's okay till you really have it all sorted out, or do
Okay.
you act?
So I'm gonna end with this. I think that he made the best decision he could make with the information that he had at the moment. Now, obviously, when that turned out to not be working in his favor, he switched. He switched tack.
And I will counter that I honestly believe most of his motivation in stepping up to the plate on this was centered around his wealth and the stock market.
Okay.
I mean, I'm
I
not.
mean, you can believe that.
I do. I absolutely do believe it.
I think to him, it's more important because he already has tremendous wealth. I think that it's
Does he?
more about his legacy
I mean,
than
fine.
anything else. It's about his name than anything else.
I mean, of the $10 billion that he said he had, you have to. I would put out
Let's
there
see,
that
Ed.
$5 billion of that was just him putting a value on his name. No real currency there, just the value of his name was $5 billion of his worth. So, when you talk about fake money, I question how extremely rich he is because he's nowhere like a
Yeah,
Bloomberg or something.
okay. No, that's fine. It's not about
He wants to be.
he doesn't care about how much money he has after he dies, right? What he cares about is a legacy behind, and that's my point. Legacy is not the same thing as wealth.
You think his legacy is more important to him than the amount of money
To
he
him,
has when
yes,
hold on to the amount of money
yes,
he can I
yes.
finish my sentence?
No,
You
you
think
did.
that you think his legacy is more important than the amount of money he has when he comes out of office?
Yes.
Bullshit.
No,
If
that's
that
exactly
if
what it is.
that if that were true, he would keep his fucking fingers out of his business.
I don't know. Whatever. That's a totally different
Hey,
question.
I'm just saying, look at the
It's a totally different
emoluments.
discussion. No,
Yeah,
what I'm saying is okay.
he's motivated by money.
Well, okay. If he actually was violating the emolument clause, he would have been impeached.
Uh,
But he wasn't impeached on that, was
there's
he?
they're not. That's not saying there's not investigations going on to it. I mean,
That's great. Then we'll have to wait to see
no,
what the result of that. Those little investigations. No, it's much more important to him that people think he's great. Now, wealth comes from people thinking you're great because they have confidence in you at that point. But the wealth is just a byproduct of people thinking you're great.
well, again, yeah, I can understand that to a certain extent. Yes, he's got the ego, but you know, he started acting when the stock market really took a shit dive.
Hmm.
One day rally, and he's like, "See, we're doing good." Then the next day, fucking plummeting. All right, we need to act. We need to fucking act, guys. The market's tanking. That all that fictitious money is tanking. All right, well, let's get the hell out of here, John. Tell them where they can
Yeah.
find us if they want to look for us.
Yes. If you haven't already, uh, you can actually go down to our description. You'll find all kinds of shit, such as the like button for one. Make sure you hit that like button. Like, yes, we bickered back and forth for the past fucking like an hour, but
Well, remember the show
no
is a
one, no
2 hour
one's
show.
right. But like, no one's angry at each other, right, Robert?
Fuck
It's all
off,
good.
John.
We're here, and we're here for you,
Fuck off,
right? We're
John.
here for the chat, and so you can hit the like and the subscribe down there
Please do.
if you so choose. Please do. Also in the description, we have our Twitter, which is at GenGapP. We have our Discord server, which if you're not in there, the hell is wrong with you? Go ahead and jump in there because the Discord server is freaking awesome. It's actually very active and very spicy. You can also go to, what is it? Freedom Scoop's the next one, right? Yes. You can go to freedomscoop.com. Where you'll find us and other creators like Jay Edgar and Stephen Ignoramus. You'll find R-Rated Conservative and Wyatt from the Roundtable Decision all over there. So you can find all their other content in one convenient place, so you don't have to go searching around your subscription in YouTube. And you get to support, an alternative to YouTube. So that's pretty awesome. While you're over there on Freedom Scoop, though, you can also buy our merch. We have shirts, we have thermoses, and Freedom Scoop has their own thing, and I guess Ed has his own shirts too. Whatever.
Oh, did he finally get
um,
some shirts?
I don't know. I don't know if he actually has any,
Oh, because I was just saying,
but
I want to get myself a.
I want an Ed shirt
I want
too.
an Ed's
Yeah.
World. I want it. I want
Well,
it.
we'll have to talk to him.
But you've got to do one
See if
with
he
one of
does.
the. You got to do one with one of the logos I made you. So I'm just. I'm just
Yeah.
saying.
But also, while you're over there buying merch from either us or Ed or anyone else, if you use the code GenGap at checkout, you'll get 15% off of your purchase, which is pretty fucking awesome. Way better than paying full price like a fucking simp who wants to do that, right? So go ahead and make sure you do that. And I guess we'll get the hell out of here.
It'll be like Ed on one of his shows where he takes his shirt off. 15% off.
Yeah.
All right, so just want to put it out there. We are very, very appreciative to everybody who showed up tonight, being part of the conversation. I know John and I went back and forth at each other, and we may have missed some of the conversation, but we'll go back and we'll look through it.
Yeah.
Again, like you said, get on Discord, and we can continue this conversation in and around the
Absolutely.
next few days.
Down in the description. Link.
Yep, it's there. But support your local podcaster and make sure that you did what he said. Hit that like button. Hit that
It's
subscribe
actually
button.
not there. Fuck. You got to put it in there.
Oh, yeah, because of the new stream.
Yeah.
Forgot. Okay.
So
Well,
maybe
look at
something-
any other stream, and most of it's there.
Any other stream, yeah.
We'll get it in the description. So we'll be back again on Monday night for a regular Shooting the Shit episode. There's a possibility we might talk about something besides this crazy world that we're in right now, but it's doubtful. Hopefully all that matters is that we'll all be able to be here to discuss whatever it is we're discussing. We'll also be back again next Friday at our regular time at 8:30. And by the way, Monday night Shooting the Shit again, we've moved to 9:30 at night now. But we'll be back
Eastern time.
Eastern, right? If you're an Eastern bunny, we'll be back also, like I said, 8:30 on Friday night for a regular episode. Outside of that, much love for everybody who's shown up. Again, much love to Henry, aka Chicken Nugs, for putting me on a decent PC, even though it's taken me a few episodes to get fucking OBS sorted.
Get it right. Yeah.
But outside of that, much love to everybody. Thanks for stopping by. We will see you. Please stay safe. Be careful out there and stick to your own. Outside, peace, John.
Yep. See you guys.